I want to see Slipknot Lucy. That's with the t-shirt
Lucy
and like one of the flannelettes tied around your like waist. And
No. I had okay, so I had Slipknot hoodies, the whole thing, but I also wore. Do they call them Jinko jeans in America? Like the really wide.
Yep.
But they had embroidered on the ass, "Bad Girl."
So
hell yeah! What did your parents say? What did your parents say when you wore those out of the house?
So my dad would not buy them for me, but Mum did.
Wow, good on your mum.
Yeah.
So we got Slipknot Lucy and we got Ska Kid Gerard over here.
Yes. Oh my god.
I had a ska band called Catastrophe. We performed all over LA. It was a whole thing.
That's way cooler.
Shoes,
that's way cooler. Way to flex on Lucy.
That's the thing. Yeah.
I thought it was embarrassing. I thought,
ska is not embarrassing.
I love ska music, but like I was trying to show humility through.
No, I appreciate it.
You got to go my angle. I was like weird kid with like, when I tried to dress nice, it was like a Hawaiian shirt with geckos with sunglasses on it and flames. Like,
oh yeah, I went through that.
You've obviously made great strides. You've made great strides since then.
Yeah, huge difference now. Yeah, totally changing it up. Hey, shut up, all right?
Now it's just Metal Gear t-shirts and Brendan Fraser. But to be fair, if there is a week to wear a Brendan Fraser t-shirt, it is this week.
It's true.
Because it
Oscar
is the man's
award-winning
We've been
Brendan
at this for a while.
Fraser.
This isn't like a trend, by the way. I've been tweeting about this for 12 years plus. So
do you reckon he's ever seen anything that you've put out?
No,
do you reckon he's ever seen a tweet or any? Have you ever sent him fan mail? Have you ever?
No.
Oh, you should, man. He would have loved that at some point in his career.
He probably could have used it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like terminally offline though, which is good.
Sure.
So
that's great.
But
I'm happy for him.
So I have IMDb Pro, which means that you can access like everyone's representatives and whatever.
Yeah.
I'll find you an email address.
Okay. I actually have an idea for a series on Game Rags, not just about him, but that doesn't also make any sense at all unless I explain it, but I don't want anyone to take my idea. So we'll just save that for another day.
Because there was a mummy, there were two mummy games or just the one?
There was two. The main one was the one for the Mummy Returns on PlayStation where you could play as Rick or Emotep. And it was really cool when you played as Emotep because you could grab dudes and like suck them. Like suck their life out, you know. Excuse me.
Was that only released in Japan, that one, or did it come to the West as well?
You know, like how we like, you know, like
sure.
That wasn't any better.
Right. I think that you need to do a play along session with Brendan Fraser where you play the Mummy game with him. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he wants to revisit that chapter in his career though.
I think he does.
He's talking about it
all the time.
That'd be some sick content if you sat there and jammed out playing the Mummy game with him. I would tune in, man. Everyone would.
No. I pulled up a video. They just used the God of War font throughout this entire game. It like
in the Mummy?
Yes, yeah, it like literally is pulled from God of War.
It was a time. It was just like how Papyrus is big everywhere. The Avatar.
Papyrus. That's right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Speaking of Papyrus, welcome to Friends Per Second, the podcast, which we are now on episode 17. It's the middle of March 2023. Thank you guys for listening, watching on all the podcast platforms or here on the SkillUp YouTube channel. But I'm Jake Baldino. I'm hosting this week. I'm kind of guiding things. But I am joined, as always, by Lucy James. How are you? You just got off a plane.
Hello. I did. Yeah, I've been in Atlanta for the past few days, and I didn't bother to change to adapt to the time zone. And I think I've made a huge mistake.
Good idea. Just
isn't it like an hour? Isn't it like an hour difference?
But we had daylight savings as well, so it was technically kind of 4.
I learned that the hard way because I booked a podcast appearance and I was like, yeah, I can get up at 5 a.m. Daylight savings kicks in. Okay, so turns out that's actually 4 a.m. and we had to get up half an hour early for prep. So that was great. Drop Frames podcast, by the way. If you haven't checked it out, it's actually a great podcast with some very cool guys. So yeah, but it was very early for me.
And that voice that you're hearing is Ralph, aka SkillUp, of course. And last but certainly not least, Gerard, the completionist. What's up?
What's up? I'm ready. I'm here. I missed you guys. It's been a while.
Yeah, you were out for the last one. Welcome back. Yeah. You've been a busy boy.
Busy boy. Oh yeah. Yep. I was raising money for charity. That's why I was gone.
How dare you?
Yeah, we raised $450,000 for direct relief.
Amazing! Holy shit!
Through a charity event we do called the Runaway Guys Coliseum with a bunch of content creators in a hotel for like 3 or 4 days. And it was madness. It was crazy, but it was really awesome.
That's insane.
That's awesome.
Good job to you and everybody. That's crazy. You have been really busy. Can we talk about what is dropping with you? So for people who are listening at around this time, you should know that the eShop is closing for Gerard. Can you break it down?
Yeah, so March 27th, which is like about a week and some change, like 7-8 days from now when this airs, the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U eShop will be closed forever. Ripperino.
So you're doing something buck wild. You've been working on this for a while.
Yes. So gamers of the internet, hello, welcome.
Here we go.
I did something very stupid, and my video actually is live right now that you can go and watch after the podcast or watch later, whatever you need, whenever you got to do. I purchased literally every single Nintendo Wii U and 3DS game on the digital eShops. And it was a nightmare. It took me almost a full year to make this video. Lots of money, lots of chaos. To give you guys an idea, at the time that I started working on the video, some titles came and went. New games were released on the eShop in the middle of my video. Roughly speaking, there's 866 Wii U games and 1,547 3DS games, and that includes DLC. It includes virtual console clones from both consoles, as well as DSiWare for 3DS folks. Wow. I purchased 476 eShop cards physically, and it cost me $22,791 by the time I was done.
Oh my god!
I did a lot of.
Not a good idea.
I am not a Mr. Beast guy. I don't have sponsors showing up paying me a bunch of money. I did a lot of really shitty mobile ad brand deals to get that money. So I
went to a good cause then. They went to a good cause.
Yes, and
Nintendo.
Well, the whole point of the video is that at the end, I'm going to end up donating both my console and 3DS at the end of my career to the Video Game History Foundation to preserve it. So there's going to be a physical backup, essentially, that my account is tied to, that the Video Game History Foundation group can have for the sake and goodness of preserving video games. So there's obviously...
Genuinely useful.
Yeah, so
there is a Mr. Beast angle in there after all. A
little
charity
bit.
Angle.
I mean, look, I'm not curing blindness, but I'm definitely wasting money. So,
You're basically like dumpster diving behind GameStop.
Yeah.
You just know that Scott DeWars is so mad right now. He's like, why didn't I think of this, man? I'm furious.
It was a nightmare. All of the problems I ran into, every single issue. If you love like Our Data is Beautiful, like, this video is for you. This is a deep dive into the psyche of someone who was like, I have an idea. And as the video goes on, it's like, this was the stupidest thing I ever came up with. It just the nightmare of it. I can't wait for you guys to watch it and see it. And it would be nice if you watched it, because that video is not going to make $22,791. So unless it goes viral. So if you want to check it out, please do. Ripperoonie eShop across the board.
Thanks for the memes.
Thanks
for
your service.
Yep. Well,
that's amazing. I'm so excited to watch it, because when we came to visit you, you were like, we have cleared out every store for cards in...
We saw the stacks.
Oh, wow.
In the office. Yeah, we saw this. Oh, yeah, that's right. You went there. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, we saw these stacks of eShop cards just lying around everywhere.
Gerard's
just like
fat
stacks of Nintendo cash, you know?
Yeah.
So
it was
great money laundering scheme, by the way. I reckon you're going to get a call from the feds.
That's a good
idea. They're going to be like, yo, no one should be buying this amount of eShop cards. The shop is about to close. There's something going on here, man.
It's in the video. You'll see me. I was on the phone with my banks several times. I was on the phone with Nintendo customer support.
Like, no, listen, I swear. No, it's real.
No
all
joke,
good, man.
No
Mr.
joke.
Bowser, please.
I call. So, fun fact for you guys at home. If you were like, hey, I wanted to spend several $1,000s at once on the eShop, Nintendo won't let you. There is an invisible cap of about $1,500 that if you hit in a day, Nintendo shadow bans you for 48 hours from redeeming any cards.
No wonder their mobile game strategy never took off, right? Because they have shit like that in there, right? That's the exact opposite of
They
what a
wanted to
successful
protect
mobile
your
game
backlog.
does.
That's what they're thoughtful.
I was scared because every 3 days I was locked out of my account, which basically made this progress so elongated.
So much longer.
So much longer. And I called Nintendo customer support several times, and two things happened every time. One, hey, this error code you're describing is not in our system. And two, holy shit, are you the completionist? Why are you calling customer support? And I called maybe like 20 times, and I tried my best. I got it escalated to the highest level of customer support, to which they told me there was nothing they could do.
Fantastic.
That's great.
So like, yeah, it's me again. Yeah, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just put me through.
yeah, it's a me. What's up? You know?
it's a me, Chris Pratt.
Oh man. All right. Well, I will definitely check that out. So it should
Thank
be
you.
up at the time of roughly this podcast. So
Yeah.
good luck. Can't wait to see what you're gonna do
Thank
next.
you.
You crazy person.
I'll tell
Yeah,
you
man.
what, never this ever again. This was a fun thing. I'm not doing PS3 or 360 eShop.
Damn.
If that stuff closes, it closes. I'm sorry. It's too much money. I tried.
Well, moving on, this week we have a lot. We're going to kind of catch up with how the game's releases have been so far this year, some first impressions on stuff like Resident Evil, the remake. But first and foremost, we actually have a nice little chat with Joe Blackburn. He is the game director for Destiny 2. Now, that is significant because Lightfall just released, and a lot of people have things to say about it. So it's a pretty good
Which
interview.
people, Jake? Which people?
Destiny fans that I don't even listen to. You guys are annoying. I'm kidding. You're not. No, we love you.
No, he's serious. He's correct.
Well, so not to hype up the interview, but Joe is 100% real Destiny nerd. So it's a pretty interesting perspective about like his thought process as leadership and Destiny in general. So I think there's actually a lot of good meat here. Even if you don't play Destiny, just if you're interested in the business, the games as a service type stuff. So we're gonna kick into that now. What do you say, guys?
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Very excited for this next block. We are joined by none other than Joe Blackburn, who is the game director for Destiny 2. And it's just, first of all, welcome. Awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
So tell us, how long have you been in the position of game director? When did that start?
Oh, that's a great question. A few years ago, I think I returned to Bungie when we were developing Beyond Light. And so I was the assistant game director through the launch of that. And then as that product took off, I took over as game director.
Right. Yeah, cool. And how did it feel to be handed the reins to that sort of gig? Because like that's a big deal, right? That's a big job in the games industry. When they sat you down in that meeting, like how did that go down?
It is, I really have enjoyed all my time at Bungie, and have, even before working on Destiny, I'm like a guardian before I'm a Bungie dev. So I joined Bungie originally right after Crota's End came out. So before that, I was like right when Vault of Glass Raider came out. And so I played the shit out of those like original Destiny, I can still remember someone being like, "Hey, why are you using bad juju?" I'm like, "Oh, because it's a high level gun." They're like, "It is not good. Like, it is not good." And learning a bunch from the game really early. And then even throughout my time at Bungie, when I was able to come in and start being a developer, I've still maintained this like love for the game. It's really deep. Like it is both I think one of my greatest strengths and probably my Achilles heel that I just like love the shit out of Destiny. And the opportunity to come back to Bungie and have a big shape in the future of the game was just really exciting. And even in my time away from Bungie, I think the easiest was when, some folks were calling me and they're like, "You still play this game like 20 hours a week, right?" Like, it was a pretty easy thing to say yes to.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Nice, awesome.
I think that's actually a great starting point if you don't want me jumping in, Joe. Because here's the thing. I have not played Destiny for many years. I am very far removed from this. All of my excitement, hype, and news comes directly from Ralph. Ralph is like the conduit for all of us. And
Terrible news source for Destiny, by the way. You got to find some better. As to Cross, Dado, but you got to go with those guys, okay? Don't get your news from me. Trust me.
So, obviously, Lightfall is here. You put your blood, sweat, and tears with the team. I'm a new player. I'm jumping in for the first time. It seems a little overwhelming, or maybe I'm not really sure if like the level of things I have to download in terms of my head to understand. Do you think that with Lightfall that it's a little unwelcoming for new players, and how much effort do you and the team kind of put into onboarding new players when you think about major updates or expansions?
Yeah, so one of the interesting things about Lightfall right now is we actually have more new players coming into Destiny than we've had in a long time, right? And so generally with a game that has as much history as Destiny, you're talking about, hey, we're getting players that played 4 years ago coming back. We're getting players that played 2 years ago coming back. Lightfall has a bunch of people playing that have never played Destiny before. And so this has always, I think, been a challenge. We have an onboarding experience we call New Light. You go through sort of the original Destiny 1 intro to the game. And this is sort of a 1 hour, 2 hour tutorial. There's a lot of systems in Destiny, right? And so we sort of throw you in head first. The problem was after that experience in Destiny for the last few years, you're just thrown out into the solar system. And there's so much content. You got this huge map of things to do. And I think that's always been a point where we lose people, where they get in, they're like, well, shooting guns feels great. But now there's like 5 different campaigns I could go play, which is the great one. There's like seasonal content. And so one of the things that we put in with Lightfall that we're really excited to see the adoption, especially in our early levels, is like how Guardian ranks, this new system that we've put in. You start as like a level 1 Guardian, and we try to point you at this thing. We say, hey, if you've got friends and they're telling you what to play, great. If you're playing with Ralph and he's like, come do the strike with me, come do this raid with me, great, go do that. That's always good. It's always, if they're not online, like there's just this tab and it says, what should I do? And it's like, you should go to EDZ and learn about bounties. You should go, okay, this is actually what season is active. This is the latest campaign, because your Guardian rank will just tell you that thing to do. And so this is sort of our backbone for when you're looking and saying, oh my gosh, this game is so big. There's 200 exotics for me to go earn. What should I be prioritizing? We do really think if you like take this track, we will take you from someone that has never been able to like play Destiny before to, hey, I could do raids on the highest difficulty. And all I've done is just sort of like follow this checklist of things to do.
So
that sounds great for a guy like me, because I am very checklist oriented. Sorry, Ralph, take it away.
I was going to say, so is that, obviously that is definitely a step forward in that for New Lights and bringing people into the game. Would you say that is sort of the limit of it as far as Bungie sees, or are there more things planned in the future for how to onboard people better?
Yeah, I'll say that we look at the onboarding in 2 ways, right? The one is the systems complexity of Destiny. Okay, there's all these things. How do they work? How do I shoot my guns? How do I get better at shooting my guns? Then there's, where is the world? Like, what's going on in the universe? Who are these characters? And so really with the launch of Lightfall, we're like, okay, let's take the first stab at the systems. What should I be doing? The thing that's next on our radar is, how do I catch up with where we are in the world? And so that's what we're looking at this year. That's what we're looking at as we go into the final shape, which is, hey, I've maybe never played this game before. Who are these people? Right now, what you'll get when you come into the game is pretty good snippets of like last time on Destiny, right? So it's the equivalent of you've never seen The Last of Us. You watch the episode and you watch the recap at the beginning. It's, oh, okay, these are the things that happen. We have that, and like that's good, but we think we can go a step further. We think we can say, hey, if you want to dive in, here is how you understand, where the story is, and that's like coming up on our roadmap here.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, just turning to Lightfall, obviously. For anyone not aware, Destiny just launched a major expansion called Lightfall. That's dropped 2 weeks ago now, is it? Feels like longer, because it feels like all I've been doing for 2 weeks is playing Destiny. So time is just this massive blur.
Yeah, a little over 2 weeks, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's a yearly expansion. It's always a big deal in the Destiny community. Joe, as we start to talk about this, I feel like there's one question that I need to begin with. You know what that question is. I know what that question is. Anyone who has played this campaign knows what this question is. So, Joe, what is the Veil? Could you tell us right now what the Veil is, please?
Yeah, what I can promise about the Veil is that what it is not is something that we're going to explain on a podcast. So, yeah, what's the worst?
Guys.
What's the
I'm
worst
sorry,
version
I
of this?
failed you.
Yeah. Like if we ever have a situation where players are like, God, there's this thing in the game, and I want to learn more about it, which is a situation Destiny's been in before, right? What we don't want is like, okay, well, great, they explained it in this out of game thing, and so what we're really focused on right now is, okay, we have a few elements that people need to know more about. Let's get that knowledge into the game, into this place where it's not 6 months later you're like, oh yeah, go watch this YouTube video to find out what this thing is. It should be
Sure.
Go play the game and figure it out. So yeah, we're definitely excited to learn more about the Veil this year, but sadly not tonight on this podcast.
Right. Okay. All right. But you're sort of saying to us that more information on the Veil will come sooner rather than later. It will come in game. It's on the way.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I feel like, Lightfall dropped, and I think there's been some different phases to its reception. I think there was that initial phase, when it just dropped, and I think people had quite a raw response to it for a variety of reasons. And then I think that shifted somewhat as people have moved into the rest of the expansion and experienced different parts of it, right? So I'm interested to get your perspective on what it was like in the studio in those opening days when obviously there was a lot of feedback coming at you thick and fast, and a lot of it, I'm sure, was quite challenging. So what was it like being at Bungie in those first few days and seeing player responses?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to do a thing that's really dangerous on a gaming podcast and potentially go into a sports analogy. So,
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Ready.
None of us play sports, by the way. None of us are sports people. So this is great.
Great. But everyone is familiar with the game of basketball. It's like an international game.
On some level.
You
Yes.
throw a ball through a hoop.
Awareness.
There are people that play this professionally. One of the ways that I think it's easiest to think about live service in both how we take feedback and how we make the game is we're like a professional sports team, right? In that every week we have to go out and play basketball again, right? And so we don't have this period of, okay, we're in full, let's all sit back and lick our wounds and think about what we're doing. It's really, hey, there's another basketball game next week. Let's analyze what's going on. Let's take the learnings and then push that into what we're doing next. And I think one of the really challenging things for people coming into a development environment like this is that sort of everything that you do every single day matters, right? And so there's not a way, we don't have this schedule that allows us to be like, hey, Gerard went up and missed a free throw. Okay, well, let's like roll back the clock, right? And we'll just like he'll keep shooting free throws until he makes it. Like that's part of it. And so when we get feedback, I think it's about live fire. Hey, what are people saying? And so one of the first things that we do with feedback is we understand, like, is this unanimous feedback or is it divided feedback? Unanimous feedback is easy, right? We take this thing and we say, hey, we shipped a thing. The players or audience are all saying the same thing. Great. Okay. That sort of realizes where we missed here or what we did well. And it also allows us to stack rank it pretty well in the like how high up in our priority should this be on something that we should be looking at, or something we should be doing more of, or something we should be doing less of. The real tricky one is when people aren't saying the same thing, right? Or they're saying, hey, half of the group really likes this, half of the group really doesn't like this. And then that sort of comes into, we start digging into deeper layers. We're saying, okay, we get it. When the players are divided, generally internally, we're pretty divided on it too. And so we start looking at other metrics. We say, hey, how is this change that we made affecting the way people are playing the game? How is this change affecting the outcome of what we're trying to do? How is this change going to affect the future? And that becomes a really tricky thing to start to align on, to start to figure like, hey, is this a thing that just needs more time in players' hands for them to understand it? Is this a thing where, like, yes, we should just always expect that some of these people, it's not going to sit right? I think there's always an element of game design, which is like, if you're doing anything that's risky, you're going to make a game that's not for everyone, right? Like, there are parts of Destiny that I think are super appealing and super exciting, but like raiding isn't for everybody, and that's okay, right? Like, some people are like, I wish I want to do solo raids. I'm like, okay, well, we've got some great solo content in the game, and we've got these things called dungeons, and you can do that by yourself, and it's like this solo experience, but like this thing has those rough edges on purpose. And so really, I think it's tricky, not when everyone's saying the same thing. It's really helpful for us. That really like helps inform our strategy. It's tricky when they're not.
Joe, forgive my ignorance, and maybe this is like too far into the weeds or too much into the hood. Do you and maybe it's just it's like more of a game design question as opposed to like a Bungie Destiny question. Do you guys purposely design things to be tested by players, going like, hey, we know this needs feedback, but let's put something out there just to see and test the waters?
I think there's a lot of interesting Destiny secret sauces that we could talk about.
Gotcha.
One of them is obviously, sorry, I'll say that I think the thing that you're talking about, Gerard, is one of them, but we have like hit feel. We really care about combat hit feel. And that's like really obvious to players. One of the other things that I think has been part of the Destiny secret sauce, and we've watched other games that come into live service emulate this, is that this sort of like all of the new stuff is shrouded in a little bit of mystery, and everyone experiences it at the same time. And so there's no beta environment for Destiny content. When it drops, everyone's seeing it for the same time. Everyone's experiencing the story for the same time. They're playing the mission for the same time. That is really exciting. It makes the world feel like it's evolving to players. It makes them feel like they're all on the bleeding edge and they're not, getting these weird peeks behind the curtain or spoilers. What makes that really challenging is we have some of the best testers in the world at Bungie. They are incredible. We have an incredible like test-focused mindset. Having hundreds of people play your game internally, for months is so different than the first day it comes out and millions of people are playing it. And that is part of, the challenge of making a game like this. But I think it's also part of our secret sauce. And so we're always learning how to do it better. It's a really interesting to see some of the ways things take hold, because they're not always what we expect, but sometimes they're better than what we expected. And they teach us to like, hey, what this system should be doing. We thought this was the goal. We're seeing how players are interacting with it. Let's like chase down this other thing. This is more fun.
You're right. Pivoting back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier in terms of that reception to Lightfall. As I said, opening chapter, quite tricky. And then I think after that, the sort of overall perspective on it shifted. And I think, well, actually, I guess I should put the question to you. What do you think players are seeing now that they're into Lightfall that they perhaps weren't seeing at the very top end of it?
I think that one of the biggest things they're seeing is how the systems game has evolved with some what seems like on paper pretty minor changes. So for everyone, one of the things that Destiny did was we said, hey, our old way that you built your character, so the RPG part of our RPG shooter, was just too complicated. And some of that complexity could allow you to do some really powerful things. But we said most of this complexity is making it, even for our most engaged players, they're like, anytime I have to change anything in this game, it is like a 45-minute experience. And we said, hey, can we just like remove some of that mental load? And I think when players first went in there, there was so much new coming at them. They sort of looked at the system. They said, oh, okay, some stuff is going on here. After players started to get their hands deep in systems like the new way that you build your character, I think they started saying, whoa, there's all these new ways that I can interact with Destiny now. And I think that's always sort of players peeling back the onion. And there's like, okay, how do all the changes of this game interact? And I think for a bunch of it in Lightfall, a bunch of the changes have been really positive for the way that you can interact with the rest of the game. And so we're seeing this crazy new damage type. We have Strand, and they're saying, oh, do you know that you can like grapple onto a gun projectile and fly across the map? And they're like, oh, no, I didn't know that, but I'm going to try that now, right? And they said, oh, okay, do you know that like you can build your character in this totally different way, and it changes the way that you interact with the strike that you've ran before? And they're like, no, but now I'm really excited to go check that out. And so I think for us, it's been a bunch of people peeling back the layers and seeing the new ways to interact with the game.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, we've sort of spoken about player reception to the game. Or to Lightfall, I should say. What's been like your reception to Lightfall, and what do you think it's really nailed, and what do you think perhaps hasn't, and that you'd look to focus on going forward?
Yeah, so I'll say it's always, I think, for me, I try to step away and listen a bunch. I'm so close to a bunch of this that I think that your first reaction to anything can be like, hey, well, I know what the future of the game is, and I know where all this is going, and I know why all this is important. And so I do this thing every time a game comes out where I take my schedule for the week, and my schedule is a nightmare. Anyone who looks at my calendar, it's like Joe's quadruple booked at 2 p.m. And I'm like, and everyone has like some horrific fire they'd like to talk to me about. But when we launch a big new release, I go and I say, hey, I'm locking out the whole week, and my block just says, it says game director versus game, right? And so I play the shit out of the game.
Interesting.
And I,
cool.
I'll like talk with people at work or initiatives where we're playing, but I'm like, hey, if you pull me into a meeting, I'm playing the game this week. And so like it'll be like we're on Discord than we're having a meeting like this right now. And in that process, I'm sort of a lone wolf player type. I'm in a clan and I play with clans, but I actually really like to live on my own schedule. So I like heavily frequent a bunch of our LFG communities, and I just join people and I just sit back and listen to what they're saying about the game and what they're enjoying about the game.
Joe,
yeah.
I have to ask, do you do this in a sense where like no one knows who you are?
Unfortunately,
that's
no.
incredible. Okay.
Yeah. So if I'd say about 3 out of 4 times I'm completely anonymous. And almost about 5 out of 6 of those times, when I'm not anonymous, people only say something at the very end. They'll like at the end of the thing be like, "Oh, hey Joe, so thanks,
That's
tell
cool.
the team thanks." Every once in a while, you'll join a raid and someone will recognize my name from a Twitter handle, and they'll be like just instantly going off about stuff. But I'd say like really impressed with our community most of the time. I've had very few bad experiences or very few experiences where someone was like, hey, I want to talk about the game, and I'll just instantly be like, hey, I'm excited to run Kingsfall with y'all. Like, we're going to talk about Kingsfall. You tell me about the game. And I've almost never had an experience where I've had to bail out of a group because they like didn't respect that. So wow. I think even in those experiences where they might recognize me, just pivoting the conversation back to like, hey, I wish I could tell you all about the game. I can't. So you tell me about the game. You tell me. And then I think they're instantly in this seat where it's like, oh my, I get to talk to the game director about my feelings on this. And they'll like just go off on some random god roll of a gun they have that they think is slightly off for 2 hours. And then I'll listen to that.
Sure. So
I love that.
That was actually really fascinating to hear your process. I didn't know that that's how you did that. I guess coming back to that original question though, is from that week immersed in the game and feeling it and seeing it and listening, what were the things that have popped up for you as being like, okay, we really nailed this versus, okay, we've got to direct some more attention here?
Yeah, and so I think at the first was we were really focused on, hey, we're hearing all the reactions the first 5 hours of the game, and we start thinking, okay, how are all of our plans for what we're doing up to the final shape gonna make sure that when we get to the final shape, that this culmination of the story that we've been telling for 10 years is epic and is doing all the right things. And so that was the first mindset we were in. We were just like absorbing a bunch of this, talking about, hey, what's right, what's wrong, what are we doing in the next few seasons, what are we doing in the final shape itself to make sure all this is landing. And then I think as we sort of got through that, as we start seeing, hey, here's what people are doing with Strand. Hey, here's how the raid is going. Here's how this new content is going. I always start picking out the things that are really working well, and I say, okay, this is working well. This is working well. Are we doing more of that in the next several seasons? Are we doing that in the final shape? It is almost impossible to have a game that does everything at a 10 out of 10. Like there's some stupid Twitter meme where someone's like, so my game is 10 out of 10 all these things.
The Tony Hawk Underground, for example.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Totally.
I really get one of those every generation, really.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think what people are looking for is your game is doing something special. And so what are the things that we are capable of doing that are special? And every time we sort of find out new things about that. And then I want to go back and make sure, hey, are we investing in this stuff that's special? Like, are we doing this? And sometimes we need to be doing things that are special and like, hey, we just missed the mark and this is like a thing that we're known for. And that needs attention too. Like, but ultimately I think it's about like uncovering some of that gold, or hey, are the things that were exciting last year still exciting, and making sure we're investing in the right stuff, making sure we're focused on that and that we're delivering it. No one knew how big sort of the end game content was going to be for Destiny when it first came out. That was a reaction to that, and that became this. Oh, there's like this whole special thing about Destiny. It's like, okay, well, how do we invest in that? And then over the years, it's been about like, okay, the end game of Destiny is so cool. There's like all this activity content you can't find anywhere else in a shooter, and we've really tried to be like, okay, but like, shouldn't you experience that in hour 2 of Destiny? Like, why is it 20 hours away? And so we're trying to take those things that like Destiny does really well and just be like, no, if you download this game, you are going to experience this before you leave. I promise, right? And so yeah, that starts to happen with every release, and that starts to be what we get to, and sort of like looking at that list and saying, are we still investing in the right stuff? Are we still doing the right stuff?
Yeah.
One thing.
Sorry.
I was going to comment. As an outsider looking in again, it kind of feels like you guys are building bridges and resurfacing and rebuilding those bridges as you're building the bridge. It's almost like you kind of have to fast forward time to build this bridge to your content strategy, because it's a lot of again, a lot of noise, a lot of people commenting, and I imagine your pipeline for that feedback has got to be pretty at this point. Spanning the time you guys worked on the games, it's got to be pretty straightforward, or rather streamlined for you guys as a team to build it out effectively.
Yeah, I think that you're building the plane as you fly it, constantly, monitoring the city. I think you could go back to sports and say, yeah, it's just like there's another game coming next week, and this is the meta of basketball is changing, right? Like, and we need to be able to do these things. And this is the kind of team that we're playing against next week. This is a really hard skill to acquire. The Bungie's been really fortunate in growing it over this years, and it never gets easier, I think, is the thing that sometimes people, they get into this and they're like, hey, we can make development easy. I'm like, you can't make it easy. It's like being like, hey, I want to get a 6-pack and eventually working out will be easy. I'm like, it'll never be easy, right? You can make it so you don't get hurt when you do it. You can make it so you're better at doing it, but it's always going to be hard. And yeah, I think it's growing through that thing and learning how we're doing it better. But I think there is a real wake up call for a bunch of people that are like, is it going to be easy next year? It's not going to be easy next year.
Well, that's actually a whole block of questions that we want to ask about in terms of live service support, Bungie's position in the industry on that, your learnings on that. Before I do that, though, I kind of just want to close off one question in relation to Lightfall, and that's about the raid, which obviously has dropped. It's Root of Nightmares. A lot of discussion in the community with relation to that raid and how quickly it was beaten on contest mode and its current difficulty tuning right now on normal. So, I mean, you're across all that noise. I think anyone watching Destiny is going to be across that as well. What's your general take on that discussion? And in particular, did Bungie go into this planning to make a raid that was quite easy, or did that sort of happen by mistake? Or like, yeah, I guess those are the broad questions that I'm asking.
Yeah, and so for this is like really close to home for me. I grew up on the mean streets of raid design. My history before getting into development was like I was a super hardcore raider in other games, and this was like I love this stuff. So we've seen this a lot. I think again going back to something that we talked about before, which is the like how your content hits when 1 million people play it. There's always a little bit of a surprise. And so throughout the years, we've had raids, world first races that have gone on for almost 24 hours. We've had raid races that have gone on, for an hour, right? That are like an hour 30. I think back to, so we had this raid at the end of Destiny 1 called Wrath of the Machine. I think its time to completion was like 2 hours and 5 minutes, or right under 2 hours. And I can remember being in the theater. The whole raid team used to get in the theater and watch the world first race. We had a Twitch up, and we'd all be sitting in the things, and we were like, "Woo, that was fast, right? Like that was really fast." And are people going to be mad about this? And I think initially there was this whole wave of people that were like, "Oh, this raid is too easy," and what happened? We just had this other big raid, and then that sentiment quickly blew over into this thing that was, "Oh, this raid is so fun, right?" And it's like I love to do it every time. And so I think one of the things that we first say is that like we, in talking to a bunch of designers that have maybe never seen this feedback before, is, hey, one thing that we know that does not correlate is the time to beat a world's first race to the longevity, the ranking, how much fun this thing is.
Sure.
And one thing that I think we really like about it is that no matter where the time is, it's an even race for everyone. You may not know if it's going to be a marathon or it's going to be a sprint, but everyone had the same challenge laid in front of them when they did it. Now, I think getting into this, now we think about, okay, what is going on in the Destiny sandbox? What did we like about this experience, and what didn't we like? And so this is the exact thing that we talked about earlier when we talked about that feedback cycle, and the team is looking into it, and they're saying, okay, well, what should a Destiny contest day one look like? How long should it take? How many people are beating it? And so we look at those numbers, but we still say, okay, but in the final shape, right? Like that name's got a lot going on with it. What should that experience be like? And should it be like this? And so all the team is looking into that, and I think they're reacting to that feedback. Again, I don't want to get out in front of the team who's been looking at this for 4 days and saying, hey, this is the thing we're committed to. But I will say they are looking at their strategy for the year, and I think making a bunch of really smart decisions based off that. So yeah, they're seeing the whole conversation. They're figuring out, hey, where are we going from here?
Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, circling back to that whole live service discussion thing, it's quite topical, the whole live service discussion, because right now there are plenty, or in the last 12, 18 months, a lot of live services kind of dropping like flies. Destiny is one of the true live service success stories. So my question to you is, why is that? Like, what have you guys managed to figure out that other people have not?
Yeah, I think the number one, there's an interesting Bungie culture bit where when we get hit with a tidal wave of like, oh, this thing is really hard, the studio is really good at rallying and picking up the pieces and figuring out what we want to do next. And that's like all live service is all the time. And so I think one of these things that like is really important for studios getting into this is like, hey, how resilient are you? Because again, we'll go back to the sports analogy here. If every Friday you've got to get up to the batter's box and like swing at this thing, you're going to strike out sometimes.
Baseball, right? Just to make sure, not
baseball.
gamer. Baseball.
Right,
Okay.
okay,
Baseball.
cool.
Not
I was
basketball.
confused. I was like,
Okay.
Sorry, man. We
where
could go to cricket here if that helps. I think
Believe me, it does not help me personally. It does not help at all. Okay?
and so I think that even a bunch of our peers that we look at that are excellent at this, I think you could go look at their track record, and a bunch of their success stories is when they released a thing that wasn't quite right, when they had a really hard thing, they were really resilient about it and were able to bounce back. And it's really hard to launch a live service, and it's really hard to maintain it. So you have to get over that first hurdle. And then once you're like, okay, so this is what it's like to maintain this thing. This is what it's like to like, we birthed a baby into the world. Now we have to take care of it, right? Like, you can look at a bunch of people that make it through that first year. It's always very challenging, and then like, okay, we sort of get it now. We sort of understand. It's also, I think, really a thing that is a hard lesson for a bunch of folks. Is you work on this thing for so long and no one knows what it is but you, right? And it's this specific thing in your mind. And with live service, it's a living thing after that. And it's a living thing that is shaped by millions of people playing it. And I think there has to be this instant like that you give this up and you say, okay, now we're going to listen, right? And we're going to like listen to what folks want this thing to be, because it might not be exactly what we thought it was. And what we thought is important might not be the important thing. And I think you'll see a lot of the success stories like really growing from a bunch of that. And really, we have this value at Bungie that we call like strong ideas loosely held. You got to have ideas. You got to be able to bring things to the table, but you got to be able to put them down. And you got to be able to say, okay, I know I thought it was going to be so good. And you're like, but it wasn't, right? And so here's this other thing that people are saying is so good. Like, well, let's go invest in that. Let's go make the game more about that. And it's really challenging.
Yeah, right.
That's got to be really tricky as a super fan who's also in leadership, right? Like, do you find yourself ever butting heads? I assume there's other people on the team that are just as hardcore as you. People are going to have different feelings either way. Like, are you super data driven, or are you guys like running by feel sometimes?
This is a great industry term. We consider ourselves data informed, which is different than data driven, right? And so we like to know what all the different data coming from the game is telling us. We don't want to let the data drive the car, because sometimes the data can drive the car into a very dangerous direction, and you are sort of responsible for knowing that. I think there's, I'll say this selfishly, that if it is very hard to win in live service and be able to survive in live service if your team does not love the thing that they're making.
Yeah, right.
If you look at a bunch of the things that are being made and being successful year over year, there's generally a company culture around that of like, okay, and these people, they know it, they love it, they understand it, and they're part of it. And you need that diversity of opinions on your game inside. You need a bunch of different people. If we were just making X developers version of Destiny, it would look very different. It would look very specific. We'd only be making the things they loved. So we need that sort of big enough group to understand and those people to be getting more opinions. And that really helps. But I think it's very hard to stay relevant in this game if you don't love it, because the potential for someone else that loves the genre that you're in to come in and service those players, to give them what they want, is so high if you're not providing it, right? I think that's the opportunity.
Do you think so? I was going to ask that, like, because do you think that the live service market is all carved up, the barriers to entries are so high that it's not impossible, but extraordinarily difficult for someone to come along and eat your lunch? Or, as you described there, do you think someone could come along and do that? Because, I've got my own view on that, but I'm just interested to hear yours.
Yeah, specifically talking about Destiny, and I won't try to say too much of our secret sauce, but I think it's pretty apparent. One of the most challenging things about making Destiny that I think is like a really hard thing for someone to come up and take the mountain is many years ago, Bungie set out to make a game that was like, we want an RPG that you can play forever. And it also has to have industry-leading action game in it. And those two things hate each other. They hate each other. Those two ideas hate each other with every core of their being. And the thing that really makes this challenging is if you go in there and you say, okay, I can make the RPG. Like, okay, great. But if you play that game for 5 minutes, then you're like, just like killing things doesn't feel as good on this game. That's a pretty big moat that we have. And then I think of the opposite, if you have hey, we've got the hit feel, and then you're like, but I beat the game and I'm done. And you're like, yep. And so I think a bunch of people, I think every live service has some combination of these things, these like impossible things that they've decided, yes, we're going to take on both of these. And the ones that feel really hard to say, hey, I want to live in that space too, I think have taken on some impossible trek that every day is a challenge. And every day someone is like, oh man, wouldn't it just be easier if we didn't have to care about this thing? And I'm like, yes, it would. It would, but I don't think we'd still be around if that was the case.
So, yeah, right. Sure.
What do you think Destiny's legacy is in the medium of video games? And how do you think it has had a positive effect?
Yeah, I think one thing that is really surprising to me with Destiny is it's a story of a game that was not expected coming around and sticking around in ways people didn't think that it would, right? I think people were like, oh, this is going to be Halo. And then it came out and it was not. It was not that video game. And then people said, okay, well, then is it going to be a failure then? And we're like, no, it's not. And it's not because we released this thing and we listened to the community and we learned from it and we made it into this other beautiful thing that can last for a very long time. I think we still, I hope that we still have the legacy of like this game is approaching its 10th year anniversary, and there's still something that is so special about the way that firing a gun feels and like how you maintain that over a bunch of years and don't feel aged. Like I think one of the things that we all feel really proud of when we have a streamer, coming from some other game playing Destiny for the first time, they're like, how does this game feel so great to play, right? And they're expecting, because we didn't release a new box last year, that's not possible. And I think that's a real testament to a bunch of the hard work that's been done and is still really getting in there. I think other than that, like we gotta let the history books decide, right? And I think that we've done a lot of things that nobody else has tried before, and some of them we've landed and people were like, oh, I didn't know you could do that in a game. But others, I think that it's still time will tell, and we'll learn more. So I don't want to jinx it too much here by trying to predict the future.
Sure. So obviously, Final Shape is next year, right? It's definitely next year. It's not getting pushed to like 2025 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll go back to the basketball analogy here. Right? There's always
Sure.
This guy with his basketball. Oh my god!
Going back to basketball.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we're not in baseball anymore, right?
No,
We're
that's
out of
right.
baseball.
Not a cricket.
Not baseball.
That's it.
Yeah.
So obviously we know that like Final Shape is going to conclude this saga, and obviously you're not going to disclose what comes next per se, obviously. But I wonder if
wouldn't it be exciting if I?
It would be pretty cool.
On
If
the
the friends
podcast.
We
right.
would love it. We would love it so much, but
Destiny
we
3
know.
confirmed right here, right now. But I wonder if you could give us any kind of insight at all into like what you're looking towards, and what part of that might be somewhat different from what the Destiny we understand now or see now. Right? Is there any kind of like directional visionary pillars that you're like, that is one of the norths for us that we're aiming for?
Is there anything like that you can talk about?
I think first of all, we really still love this thing that we make, and we still want to make sure that, hey, if you like this intersection of RPG and shooter, that whoa, Destiny is the game that you should be playing, and that Bungie is the people that should be making it, and we should be providing that for people for a long time. I think the plane that we really want to land here and that we want to do is like saying, hey, we've been telling this story in Destiny about it's the pyramid versus the traveler for a long time. I think we really want to say, like, hey, we can close off chapters of Destiny, and then we can show what else this universe has to offer, and then we can show what else is going on. And that's a hard thing to do, right? You get in a lot of IP, and they just like, hey, we have this thing, we know people like it, let's like crank it back out over and over and over again. I think that the thing that we're really excited about is like, hey, let's give people a satisfying conclusion to the narrative that we've been saying here, and then let's open a new door and let's say, oh, here's the other thing. How do you feel about that? And I think with that, we're always looking at the system game. We're always looking at like, hey, what's working about this? What do we want the next saga of Destiny to be like? How do we want it to feel? Bungie, if one thing, is not afraid to take risks and surprise people with how our games evolve and the way they evolve. So yeah, we're excited for y'all to learn more in the future. But I think it will be surprising. I think it will. That's the one thing that we can always say.
Okay.
Is that, like, when we do these things, it's always going to be a little bit surprising.
All right, cool. All right, well, we're out of time. We'd love to keep chatting, but obviously we know you're busy with your quadruple booked 2 PMs. But yeah, we just want to say a massive thank you for being here. It's fantastic to be able to speak to you, and congratulations on the success of the game ongoing. I mean, obviously, I, like many people, am addicted to it for a reason, and love it for a reason. So yeah, just thank you for all the work that you guys do, and thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me. And again, Jake, when the Tony Hawk's Underground episode comes out, like, yeah, just invite me.
We got that 4 hours.
Yeah,
in that busy schedule.
All right, take care, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. There you go. Thank you guys for listening to that. Lucy, I understand you couldn't make it. You got the Lego Rivendell set. So
yeah, no, I was just busy.
It's a big deal.
No, I was on a plane, and it was just very, very tight getting back. So I am excited to watch it back, because you'll know that I've been threatening to dip my toe into Destiny. I do have Lightfall downloaded, but I've been playing some other stuff in the meantime. I will get there, Ralph. I promise.
It's cool. You can turn green. You can turn green
Don't
and
worry.
play basketball and like do Spider-Man stuff. But you got to be a green man in it. And also, there's this weird guy with like a smokestack for a head.
Oh,
and
I was so confused.
Then they all drive pyramids, and it's pretty cool.
They do.
Wait, what?
That's my review.
That is his accurate law accurate review of Destiny 2 and a recap of the storyline.
Oh my god!
I'm not sure I want to check it out now, because it sounds crazy.
I want to check it out more.
Well, in all seriousness, with this interview, Ralph, you got any like immediate takeaways from it?
No, I think it was really good to talk to Joe. Obviously, he's not going to be able to give away the farm, no pun intended, to any Destiny fans, with regards to what he says. But I was very interested to hear his thoughts on live service and what it takes to be successful, because yeah, like, they are dropping like flies in general throughout the industry, or like, are they either turn up and they last for a little while, or they just disappear, or they arrive, they bomb straight away, and that's the whole narrative, going forward. So just to hear his insight into how they've managed to stand up and support that service, particularly around that culture of enjoying the game. I thought that was such an interesting thing for him to say. Like, if you're going to stick with a live service and actually manage it, then yeah, your people need to like the thing that they're working on. And one thing that Bungie has always been famous for, always, is that, well, certainly in the Destiny era, is that their people actually play Destiny. They really do. And I certainly speak to a lot of game devs who don't play their own games. And that is a differentiator. Then you can really feel that in the way that comes through in what he said to us. Yeah, obviously, would have loved a little bit more of the specifics on Destiny and what's next and what have you. But I get it. Like, he has to do his thing as a leader, and he doesn't want to give away too much. But it was still really appreciative of his perspective. So Yeah.
Well,
Good chat, I think. Good
yeah,
chat.
I think we got some good stuff out of them. Let's move
Yeah.
on to our first viewer listener submitted question of the
A user
I got
question.
it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, actually, that's what we're officially
Did you know
calling
now,
it.
by the way, that in the email, when I get emails, they're all titled user question. User question.
Excellent. Thank you. I love you guys.
Comes through
Thank you.
as user questions.
That's great.
Right.
A user
Welcome-
question because they love
welcome
this
users.
project so much. What do we call?
right.
Oh,
It
like
was with the crypto bros, with the projects and
Dude,
the NFTs.
the amount of crypto and NFT and AI interview requests I'm getting for GDC. I respond to every single one very politely, and I just say my presence at the show this year is very limited, but thank you. For your very interested to hear more about this project.
Yeah, all right. So where were we? The email is questions@friendspersecond.com.
Nope.
No, it is not Jake. Okay, do not
No.
listen to Jake.
Sorry.
No.
Nerd. Oh no!
You just
Why
lost
are you
the
making
hardest
fun of the
Australian no.
Australian no. Do not roast the Australian no, okay? The address is actually contact@friendspersecond.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so this comes from user Shahil. If I got your name right, sorry if I mispronounced it. But they ask, last week you mentioned that gamer bods are the new dad bods. That makes me wonder what each of you do. What each of you do to stay active. Are there any gamer specific workouts or exercises that you do or know of that are not your typical mainstream workout or exercise? I don't want to start.
Do any of us work out? Like I don't
Yeah.
think we've ever spoken about it.
I
Like
don't look it, but I do.
Same.
I
I-
definitely don't look it, but I do.
Same.
There you go. See? And Jake, you have a whole apparatus in your own home to
Oh,
facilitate
yeah.
it.
Apparatus sounds, that's why I just have a Peloton that I use sometimes. I do like 3 to 4 days a week. Not as much time as I would want. And I try to just eat normal lunches. I try not to just go for quick and easy, like fast food or something like that. I don't drink a lot of soda, and it's hard because I love soda more than anything. I have kind of, I've been around so many people in my life that just drink soda all day at work, and I want to be that person so bad. But I just drink seltzer and water, and that has helped me significantly. I don't have any gamer type workouts other than that I like getting sweaty in VR, as gross as that sounds. I've tried a lot of the workout programs. I've tried forgot what it's called, but I tried the Peloton subscription equivalent of VR game on Quest.
oh, the boxing
Right.
one,
Sure.
or like the
On the bike riding one.
There's like a for Quest. There was, I don't remember the name of it, but
it's like
it's not just boxing. It's more of like a movement
Yeah.
type
I know
thing.
that one. I know
I
that
know the
one.
one you
Yeah,
mean.
I know the one. you're
But I
talking
still
about,
think
but I don't know
Pistol
the name of
Whip
it.
is like the best workout. That's like the John Wick
Sure.
style game. I'm jealous of the people that can go on a treadmill or an exercise bike all day and just like crush a JRPG. I can't do that. Like I can't. It's something with my attention or my brain or lack thereof. But do you guys do anything like that? Do you game while working out?
So so since the chronic fatigue diagnosis, I've had to pull back. Not that I was ever the most active person, but I've had to pull back because the whole thing about chronic fatigue is just managing energy levels, as nebulous as that is. But what I do have is I have a standing desk and an under the desk treadmill.
Oh,
So sometimes if I feel kind of have the wherewithal to do it, I will put the treadmill under and I'll just kind of gently walk and type and just get moving a little bit, which is fun. I used to play a lot of Beat Saber, but now that's my Oculus is there gathering dust. Dragula, which is a song that I definitely legally obtained and didn't sideload into
No.
my Beat Saber,
That's awesome.
is
Absolutely.
the
absolutely not.
best song to dance to.
It's a
in Beat
good
Saber.
idea.
It is incredible.
Have you done the Rasputin one? Rara Rasputin?
Oh no, I've
it's
done it in
top
Just
tier,
Dance
man.
before.
Okay, it's top tier in
Yeah.
Beat Saber. Trust.
Yeah.
I don't do any gamer stuff, but I do this thing called Body Attack.
what is
Has
that?
anyone ever
What's
heard of this?
that? No.
So just basically picture aerobics, That's what it is. It's aerobics.
Okay.
Just-
You see, well, I'm
Like-
picturing Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie. Perfect.
That's what I think about every day.
well, she's going to be on the podcast.
I'll-
She's going to be on the
I'll let her
podcast
know.
one day.
No,
You just know
let
it.
her know.
Please.
We're going to play.
Yeah.
We're going to play that clip back.
No,
okay? We're going to
no,
play
no.
that clip back when she appears
I
on the podcast.
literally know her so well. It's a phone call away. So like,
There we
Jake,
go.
Can you,
Please don't.
can you
I'm
just
sorry.
tell her
No, I mean,
that
like,
she's
I meant it as a compliment.
She's an
Like-
icon for that. No. We genuinely had, when I was still living with the Millers, we just watched Perfect with her and John Travolta, and we were just like,
Oh yeah.
they're too attractive.
They're both insane in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my thing.
Body Attack.
Don't look up any clips for it, by the way.
I play a little game called Dance Dance Revolution. I have an arcade cabinet in my house, and I try and play it at least 2 to 4 times a week.
Whoa.
I go for about I try and go for as long as I can, but I usually go for about 20 to 30 minutes. And what I've been doing is I actually modded my cabinet to have a PC next to it, so I can stream on Twitch, and DDR fans will like donate bits and choose the song and the difficulty, and so I'll try and use that as my self-motivated challenge. I did it a lot before I joined G4, and then I got G4 and that time went away, but I'm slowly working my way back into it.
That's a cool way to do it.
That's
I
really
wanna-
cool.
It's almost like a little bit of accountability too, because it's like fun
Yeah.
game time. You're streaming. That's awesome.
Did any of you play
incredibly
Ring Fit?
exhausting.
Oh, I'll bet.
No, I haven't.
Ring Fit was a little weird. Yeah, I thought it was
like
okay.
it a lot.
Ring Fit's fun, but I also feel like there are so many ways to cheat it that if you're not playing with someone in the room, there's like not really, I'm not that like we need to cheat at a fitness game, but I don't know, like that was the one thing about Wii Fit I didn't like, because Wii Fit was like it's a board, and if you just step on it, that counts as like doing the activity. But
Wii Fit was a judgy little bitch.
it sure was. It absolutely was.
Hi, Lucy. It's been 253 days since you last turned this on.
Yeah.
I know. Ring Fit's
It's a you
nicer
problem
about it.
board, okay?
Oh, the only
Ring
other
Fit
thing
is
I
nicer about
the
it.
only other thing I do is my dog keeps me pretty active. My dog has this issue. I don't know if it's a medical issue or what, but he can only poop if I chase him. So we have to do laps around the backyard,
Hell yes.
and it's so annoying. Like he can like he scratches at the back door, like I gotta go. Like you can tell, but then when you let him out, he doesn't do anything. He has to like run it out of him, kind of.
He has to feel the fear
You have
first
to-
before he's willing to do that.
You have
know?
to put the fear of God in your dog in order for him to take a crap.
It's more like he just needs to like kind of like get his blood, because he's like, he goes out and he goes, okay, are you gonna chase me? Let's go. And I'm like, oh my God. Sometimes it's like raining or it's 2 degrees outside. I love
Can you
him.
listen? Please do me a favor, okay? Next time you do this, ask your wife or just set up. Just film this. I
Yeah,
want to
we-
see this.
we need to
okay?
see it, I'm
Please, can you
afraid.
film? And we're
We
gonna do. And I
need
want
to
to do a
see it.
super cut, and I want to have it on the podcast. Please, we need to see it. It needs to
Please.
happen.
It's a
Now that
whole-
the imagery is there.
It's a
We
whole
need a
thing.
social cut. We need social cuts.
So
We do.
You
sometimes
know,
he doesn't like, you gotta like, a toy or something to get him to
gets
run.
Performance anxiety is what you're saying.
Yeah,
So
you
the
gotta
cam-
like
the
give him a
camera might-
toy,
yeah.
throw a toy
Sure.
around, but like, a lot of times there's not a toy. So like I have like a garbage can lid, and I kind of like Captain America around with him and like chase him with that. Like I could do this all day. And then I also, as you guys know, I practice lightsaber like as a real thing. I'm trying to like learn moves and stuff. And I have a practice one in the backyard. And sometimes like we play around with that because he tries to bite it and chase me with it. So I just gotta like run him around so he can poop. And if I'm not
I
there,
wanna
I don't know what's
see-
gonna happen.
I want to see you
I
with
want
the
to see
bin
the
lid.
clip of you holding a garbage shield in one hand and a lightsaber in the other.
I've done it.
Chasing your dog trying to get him to poop.
It
Okay,
sounds
I need
fake,
to see
but
this.
it's real. It's real.
I need to see this, please.
I just look at him and I go, if it was the end of the world and there's no humans around, what are
If
you
we
gonna
get-
do?
How many likes would it take on this video to get you to post this clip? Is it 10,000 likes on this video? Is it 20,000? How many is it going to take, Jake? Okay.
It's not real, dude. It can't be real.
What do
It
you,
is real.
what do you yell while you're running after him?
Oh no, I'm just like, come on, buddy, let's go. Come on, like,
Aw.
please go make potty.
Go make
Please
Come
go,
on, dude. Please
go.
Or
Bang, 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 bang. Please go. What? Fucking hell. Oh my god.
Oh, I
Good
needed
question.
that. I needed that. Thank you, Jake. Thank you,
Let us know in the comments
Shaquille.
below if you have to do weird shit to make your dog shit. We would love to hear your stories for how this happens. If this is just a Jake thing or not, I don't know.
What's your dog called?
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
Boston.
Shout out to Boston.
You have to viscerally attack Boston with the lightsaber and a trash can.
Okay, listen.
lid.
No, I don't. His tail's wagging the whole time. He loves it.
He loves it.
He loves
Gonna get a call. It's gonna get a call from whatever, like the animal protective services.
animal control
We've had
services.
reports that you've been threatening your dog with a lightsaber and a garbage can.
He's
there
like,
an
come on,
intruder?
chase me. He has to do like 4 laps before the poop comes out. It's terrible. Anyway, that's my life. So this week, or roughly this week, because we're an every other week podcast, we're going to run through some of the releases. We have Lightfall, Scars Above, Wo Long, Fallen Dynasty did drop. Check out the last podcast. We did talk about that a little bit. Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, Before Your Eyes got its PSVR 2 release, and of course, the Resident Evil 4 remake. First and foremost, I think we should talk about Lightfall. Now, Ralph, you're the guy. So you're talking to 3 people who don't really play.
Yes.
You're overall positive, but there was this whole thing where people didn't like it at first.
Yes. Well, I think there's definitely need to say that there's still a lot of people that don't like this expansion. And I would say that anyone who is on the fence about Destiny, plays a little bit of it, jumps in and out, those people I think are generally pretty negative on this. And they're like, there's not really enough here to like justify me coming back in and spending my money and time. I'd say that for the really hardcore players, some of them really like it, obviously, because it has some really cool things. Like Strand, for example, is the new subclass. It's fantastic. It's one of the best things that Bungie's ever done, full stop. They love it. There's some cool endgame activities. There's some nice new sort of guns to collect with perks and whatever. But bottom line, for a lot of players like myself, it's just more Destiny, and we're okay with just more Destiny, even if it doesn't like pop off and it's incredible, right? Same time, obviously, there are some hardcore players that are like, no, this is really shit. They hated the story campaign. They hate the new raid. It's very easy to complete, and hardcore players are disappointed with that. PvP is like languishing. Bungie does not give it anywhere near enough resources to sort of keep that scene alive, and a lot of PvP players have moved on. So, I think that's how that breaks. And then obviously there's like people like yourselves who just don't play Destiny, and the question is like, would you recommend Destiny Lightfall to those people? Is it a jumping in point for the franchise? I had hoped that I could say yes, but I don't think it's the case. Like, I just think that there are still some big gaps in the game that make it very difficult to come in, become a Destiny fan. And that's one of the things that Joe mentioned on the podcast, where we talked about new player onboarding, and he's like, well, we've thought about like some system stuff, but now we're going to start thinking about how we introduce people to the world. And one of the big problems with them vaulting content, pulling previous, expansions out of the game, it does make it very hard to step in and feel like you're really connected to these characters, this universe. That'll get easier, I suspect, after Final Shape, because that's the end of that saga, and a new saga will begin, or perhaps even Destiny 3, who knows? But for now, it just feels like you're really coming in on like episode 9 of a 10 episode season, So yeah, look, unfortunately, it definitely has not hit the same highs that Witch Queen did. That was a real knock it out of the park kind of affair on most fronts. This one is just a bit, I mean, IGN just issued their review, 6 out of 10. It's mostly negative on Steam, 33% positive, which is pretty disastrous, to be honest.
Is it the story? Is it like the campaign that's really letting people down?
Yeah, the story really sucks. Like, it's hard to describe just how much it sucks, but it really, really sucks. Because, like,
I like the
that
setup.
on its own.
The setup seemed
Yeah,
cool.
well, the setup is very cool, and that's the thing. Like, we've kind of had 2 years of Bungie really nailing the story side of things, and we feel like we moved past this meme where Destiny has no story or Bungie don't know what they're doing with story. Like, we were past that. We were like, haha, you guys are using old information when you throw that in a Destiny fan's face. Mm-hmm. But now it's like, well, actually, we are still back there, and it feels so disappointing on that level because we just had such high hopes for it. It's the penultimate chapter in the saga. It's meant to be big. Big shit is meant to happen, and it's almost no exaggeration to say that basically nothing happens in this expansion. Like it's essentially one cutscene split in two. You see the first half of the cutscene at the beginning of the expansion. You see the second half of the same cutscene at the end. Everything in the middle is just kind of filler that doesn't really make sense, and it's just kind of a tutorial for the new Strand subclass. So everything good that Lightfall does is sort of under the shadow of that disappointing campaign. And it really sort of like takes the wind out of the sails across the board, you know?
Is the Strand, so as someone who just experienced like some of the campaign, is the Strand subclass as much of a game changer as it feels? Because the campaign just kind of drip feeds it to you, but it seems like it's a blast.
Yeah, it is. It's super fun. And if there's anything that's going to make a Destiny fan out of someone who's not interested or bring someone back, it will probably be Strand. It's a grapple-based class. It's so mobile. It's very up close and personal. It opens up a very different play style to anything that's existed before in the game. And so it is a game changer, I think. And Bungie cannot get enough credit for that. As in, like, it's just difficult to overstate how good that is and how much they nailed that part of the game. But that's really that, and the loadouts, you know, like the fact that you can switch between different gear sets now very quickly.
That's big.
They're like the two things that they really slam dunked. Yeah, cool. Just well done. Everything else is a bit more like, there's some problems with this, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, to be honest with you, because I mean, we're all very excited for it. There's still lots of reasons to be excited for the future of Destiny, but it does feel as though, like, again, coming back to what Joe said, they view it as a like they're playing sports. It's like a basketball game, and it's like you go out there at the start of, I don't know, a semi-final, and you lose the match. You can still win the championship, right? I have no idea what I'm talking about, by the way. I'm just using words. I'm just using words now. But you can lose something and then still win the big thing at the end is my point, okay? And I guess this feels like a losing round right now for the franchise. And we're really hoping that when it comes to the final shape, the grand final, that Bungie can actually, like, you know, stick the landing.
Oh, wait, it's actually called The Final Shape.
It actually is called The Final Shape, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were joking.
No. It's a very odd name, but like, yeah, because the shapes are actually quite, this Traveler is circular, and what's attacking it is the pyramids, the triangular. And so, you know, the final shape is kind of like, well, what is that?
Is it the Klingon?
Lucy's face right now, for anyone on the podcast, Lucy's face is like, interesting. Oh, okay, right.
I didn't realize that, I don't know, it feels like I've come full circle for learning about shapes
like
when I was 4.
Preschool.
Yeah.
That's right.
The final shape.
It is.
Sounds like a Halloween reference.
Playing Destiny when it first came out, talking about the Traveler, wizards coming from the moon, could never have predicted that another antagonist would have been a fucking triangle.
The real enemy all along was the triangle.
The three-sided shape.
The three-sided triangle, that's right. So, yeah.
I'm still interested. I just need to get around to playing it.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing, like, I think if we spoke about Destiny before this Lightfall launched, and I'm like, yeah, it's really exciting that you can play Destiny now or whatever else, and now I've played Lightfall, I'm like, well, I would say you probably don't need to play now. And, like, it's just that's one of the biggest disappointments. Because as a Destiny fan, we all want to be able to say to people, totally, man, you should play Destiny. It rules. It's so cool. But, like, we can't really do that right now. And Lightfall, we haven't been able to do that kind of ever, I feel like, because it's had too many issues with Destiny. And we'd really hoped that Lightfall was that thing where we'd be like, nah, man, this is sick. You should totally jump on this. Fortunately, it's not that. And just feel like waiting until Final Shape might be the better jumping in point. Fingers crossed. So, yeah, that's Lightfall, man.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Destiny content for Destiny players.
Yeah, I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm always happy for my Destiny friends. I got Destiny friends. I don't know what they're talking about. There was like a thing where you used to be able to like beat a raid and get like a cool jacket in real life.
Oh, you can.
I love that.
You can still do that.
I wish they had games like that for me.
Like, the jacket's like $300 or something, man. So it's like
you earned it.
It's
Pay
like
up.
yeah, that's right. So if you got the cash for it, sure, it's a nice little perk, but yeah, it's definitely not cheap. So yeah.
Next up, the embargo is dropping, or it has dropped. Reviews have dropped for Resident Evil 4. If you're listening or watching, I have been playing through it. At the time of recording this podcast, though, full disclosure, not finished with the game. I am, for Resident Evil 4 fans, this isn't like a spoiler, but like I'm pretty much at the end of the castle main gist of the Ramon Salazar stuff. So take that for what you will. Very early first impressions. I'm still forming my actual opinions on it. But it's cool. It's very cool. It's so hard for me because I love Resident Evil, and 4 is the weird one. 4 is the one where things shifted back in the day. And some Resident Evil fans are not into that shift. And now with the new one, that shift feels even more apparent coming off of 2 and 3 Remake, and even 7 and 8. 4 is just this weird ass thing. And I think that still has a place just because it's so strange. And I'm happy that I can confirm that they've kept a lot of the weirdness. There's some stuff that I don't totally jive with. I guess I'll get those off right off the bat here. Leon's performance here, like his voice actor, it didn't work for me. In the original,
didn't like it.
In the original Resident Evil 4, he was pretty monotone, but like cool. This one, I don't know. I just the way the voice actor is doing it, it sounds more bored than anything.
Where's everyone going? Bingo.
Hasta luego. Yeah. I also will say that, and I talk this up a lot in videos. This might be an unpopular opinion. I don't think they quite nailed the intro.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the actual village fight with the chainsaw, that's all good. But the reveal at the start and like, oh, what's going on? And just the way it was directed in the original game, I'm glad that they didn't try and copy it because I don't think they nailed it. But like, I don't think what they did improves upon it too much. Again, I'm still like working through these thoughts. Otherwise, like a lot of shit is really cool. I think Ashley's a little more interesting. The way they do Ada and like all that stuff is a little more interesting. Even the intro, like the intro cutscene in the old game when he's like, "Oh, umbrella." Like they add a couple of lines that kind of make things a little better, a little bit more cohesive. And yeah, I appreciate stuff like that as like a Resident Evil fan. I can't spoil some things, but you know, I don't want to. It's hard.
Well, I've played up to El Lago,
okay,
the lake. So I've put a couple hours in. I snuck around to Tabs, and he was like, "Yeah, you can just play. It's fine."
Nice.
The thing that I'm really, really enjoying it, and I replayed 4 not too long ago, and like. The thing I would say about it with regard to Remake is that I'm not finding myself jumping, and obviously 4 was like way more action focused anyway, but I guess I thought from the early trailers and whatnot that they were going for that grittier thing with this, and I'm not necessarily getting that, but I'm having a blast. The way that like encounters seem to change. I did the opening a couple times, and like one time I went up the tower and they pulled the floor down. But then another time I went up the tower and they didn't do that. And so it's kind of already, I'm like, I want to replay this and just see how different things are going to be. Mm-hmm. But I'm also like, I find it, obviously it's much easier to play because they've modernized a lot of stuff about it, but it's so fun. It's like stealth around. I am deflecting a lot with the knife though. I feel like that's maybe a little, not broken, but I feel like I'm getting away with a lot more than I should. Because I'm just tapping L1 just to dodge, not dodge, but like deflect everything.
It took so long to like get that into my brain. Like I couldn't wire that into my gameplay flow. You've been able to like really.
Yeah. Because I mean, I don't know. I was kind of getting to a place where I was like, not getting killed, but like stuff was hitting me more often than not. And I was going, what the hell am I doing wrong here? And then way later on, you get an actual tutorial in a little bit of stealth section, and it goes, oh yeah, tap L1 and blah blah blah, and you'll deflect stuff. And I was like, oh, because it flashes up in the corner, but it's kind of small.
Yeah.
But the window is very generous. I'm playing on normal, and I find the window very, very generous, and I'm just blasting. So I came out blasted, you know.
Normal is pretty easy. I've been breezing through it pretty easily, and that's not just because I'm familiar with the old game. Like it's significantly changed enough where you hit new puzzles. There's different encounters. There's substantial change ups. One thing where I also want to get off the bat, like I kind of started off kind of wishy-washy, but like I do ultimately like it. But one thing I really appreciated is that some of the like I guess you would call them bosses or sub bosses, like some of those encounters are so much better here. Just like the way they're presented, the arenas that they're in, the little tweaks and stuff. And then also just like the cinematic presentation and how everything looks crazier and feels crazier. Like a lot of that really works, even down to like trekking through the woods, like just the addition of more like chanting and, you know, more sound effects and just a little bit more going on. It's cool.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. I really also like that they've given the merchant way more lines.
He has so much to say.
What is it? He says like, that's why gun rhymes with fun or something. It's just a weird little guy.
He's also like, we're getting old. All right, we've been here for a long time. I'm like, that's cute. Yeah. He's a different voice actor, and it took me a minute to get used to him, but you hear him a lot because I mean you're running back constantly. The game gives you even more trinkets and treasures to find than in the old one.
Is it weird, Jake, that the minute that you brought up that the merchant was back, my immediate, because full disclosure, I didn't get a code. I've been begging Capcom every day. I usually get a code for Capcom games early, and they've just been stonewalling me this whole time. But when you brought up the merchant, I don't know if you noticed, I just took off. I like didn't want to hear it, but like you know what I mean, because I love the merchant so much. So I was like, I don't want to spoil it. But
he's still cool.
He's
still cool. I can confirm that
nothing changes. Yeah,
he's got the purple flame. He's chilling. He sells cool stuff. So the one thing that did immediately come back to me and make me really appreciate this is just how it is just like a crazy fun shooter kind of. It's just like a run around, pop a guy in the face, run up, roundhouse kick him. Take out your sniper rifle, shoot 4 guys. Like you kill a lot of men and monsters in this, and it's fun. Like it feels good. The weapon, the shotgun isn't quite as satisfying as it used to be. It's like almost there. The weapon sound effects are changed, but where I think it really like shows that it's still really good is that like I love the rifle in this game for some reason. There's something about it. The bolt action rifle, even from the original, was just so satisfying, and it's like the only sniper rifle in a game I'm good at. Probably because it's really easy, but I'm glad that has translated over. I was able to immediately pick up the game and in rapid succession take out like 4 headshot guys. Like, and that's not me bragging. Like it feels that good. So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. I'm still playing through it. I'm curious to see if they stick the landing, but it's hard to even nail down how like the change conversation. I'm still working through that, right? Because Dead Space added little things here and there that were very smart, just little additions like that, where Resident Evil 4 does that, but it also changes things up a little bit here and there. And I still don't know. It's not really like I don't know if I like it or not. It's more like we didn't need to. I don't want to go so hard to say like we didn't need to remake it, but I don't know. As you can tell, I'm a little mixed.
Yeah, but I know that a lot of hardcore fans really didn't like 2 for its sort of like some of its changes and in particular some of its omissions. Is there anything missing so far in your playthrough, or is it all there but they've just changed up some of it?
It's mostly all there.
Right.
It's interesting. I think the difference between 2, the remake of 2 and the remake of 4, the remake of 2 was like, holy shit, this is crazy, because it's like, now it's how I imagined it in my head because it was such an old game. Whereas 4, I still think is incredibly playable. It's like a well-oiled machine. You could smoke that game front to back. It's just like really well put together and fun. And like you still can just do that. And you're kind of doing the same thing again, but with a fresher coat of paint. And I'm not
Yeah, but the same thing could have been said of Dead Space.
Exactly. That's why I brought up where I'm like, I'm so all over the place. Like, again,
Sure.
like it's first impressions. I'm a mess right now with how I'm talking about this, but
Right.
I ultimately like it. I've had a lot of fun playing it. I didn't get the like, oh my God of 2 remade, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the little surprises and change ups. And Leon has a really cool jacket. And then when he loses his jacket, he has a really cool shirt. And then later on, you get a bulletproof vest and he looks even cooler. Like, I just love all that stuff. The weapons are cool. Like I said, the enemy encounters, like the bosses and sub-bosses are often heightened. So I think I'm leaning towards like, yeah, I really like this. It's just like I'm coming to grips with how I'm going to talk about and how I'm going to outline things in a video.
Sure.
So you guys are seeing this happen in real time.
And also, it's like you said, you haven't finished it, so you haven't got the full
Yep.
picture of it. You're going off also what you can say, because review embargoes are a thing, and there are certain surprises you don't want to spoil, and so
There's a lot that I don't want to spoil, and then to be honest, Capcom is pretty like, hey guys, we want to be very specific. We don't want things to be spoiled, so make sure you do this, do that, and do that. So you got to talk around some things.
I'm excited. I'm excited for like the chat when we can talk about it.
Yeah. The thing is, I finished 4 back in the day. I have only finished it once. I liked it for sure, but I didn't love it because the jump in tone wasn't quite for me. I was very much a Resident Evil 2 and 3 dude, and also I think that's mirrored in how I approach 7 and 8, because 7 is very self-serious, and then 8 starts to reintroduce a little bit of that, just a little, the merchant thing, and just like I don't know, it started to get a little bit, it just started to get a little bit more funky, and I really liked how straight 7 played it. I loved it, in fact, but I get why the series needs to change and evolve, whatever. My point with all this is I'm really interested to go back, or to now play the remake, because I don't remember much of 4. I really don't. As I said, I finished it once a long time ago, and that was it. And so while I remember some iconic moments, it's going to be quite fresh for me. You know what I mean? And I'm interested to see how I respond to it now that I've had 2 and 3 remake, 7 and 8, as well as stuff like, Dead Space more recently. And I'm trying to think if there's other survival horrors we've seen outside of that in the last few years. Have we?
Callisto Protocol.
You make a good point though, because I'm approaching it as like someone who, and I just like assume everybody's played Resident Evil 4, everybody's played it a million times, so that's just me. I shouldn't come at it like that, but I think for you, I think it'll be successful, especially in terms of how, like I said at the start, it's still weird, it's still a big shift, but the little tonal changes, the little things here and there, maybe help mold it together a little bit for some. And, with you only playing it back in the day. Yeah, it's probably a pretty cool experience to play through. It is just good old-fashioned video game, which, faults and all, I'm here for that. I love just a straightforward adventure.
Yeah, I'm keen. I'm excited.
Next up, in talking games, as I just stumbled through Resident Evil. Thank you, guys.
You did great.
Thank you.
You did great.
Again, it's a review in progress, so I'm still hashing it out. I want to hear from Gerard, though. You've been playing a lot. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. What is the deal with this? Because I am a Kirby novice.
So this is I want to say it's a port, but I'd say it's more like a remix of the game of the same name for the Nintendo Wii from back in the day. This was very much a more similar style to the original Dreamland series, like, the one for the Game Boy, Nightmare in Dreamland. Just the gameplay is very familiar if you've played the original Kirby games. There was a while where the Kirby games started to get a little more party centric and different types of mini games. This kind of combines both. You can play as the 4 homies of Kirby. You got Kirby, Waddle Dee, Meta Knight, and King Dedede. And I mean, I don't know if any of you played the original game, but the base game essentially is a 1-for-1 copy of the original. But they added a ton of extra content in the game, from extra mini games to a whole new epilogue with Magalore, who is the villain of the game in the end. It's kind of, I don't know if it's a spoiler, but the character, the evil guy in the game, tricks Kirby into helping him as an ally. So sorry, you had at least a decade to play this game, everyone. I'm sorry. In the very complicated Kirby versus God video game. And they added a bunch of there is a theme park that Mayor Magalore operates in. It's a different Magalore character, and it has a bunch of mini games from one of the anniversaries of Kirby. And they've even updated some mini games to have online functionality. Like Samurai Kirby is in the game with a Samurai 100 mode, so it's like a little BR mini game that you can do once a day.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, there's lots to do in this game. If you are a true completionist, this game does not skimp out, and it's very difficult to complete. I know that everyone always kind of touts Kirby games as easy and for babies. If you're a completionist, this game is not easy. There is a huge difficulty curve as you get towards the end of the game. There's like 120 achievements in just the Mayor Magalore Maryland alone. And then of course there's the epilogue where you play as a kind of a powered down villain that has to gain his power back. And there's like a boss arena mode and a true boss arena mode, and there's a ton of content in here. If you're a Kirby fan, I'd recommend checking it out. It has a lot in it. If you've played the original game, I don't think you're gonna be missing too much with regards to the Kirby content. But if you've never played it, there's a lot here for you. And of course it's Kirby, which means that for the most part, if you're playing with at least another person, the game is relatively easy, but it does have a difficulty spike when you're trying to round those achievements and beating true arena battle mode. And I did a whole freaking video on it, and it was extensive. It took a lot out of me. I thought, hey, I can knock this game out in like 2 days. I was wrong. It took almost a whole week for me to do it. And yeah, it's a fun time. Very, very fun.
Yeah, I need something light, honestly.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
It looks fun.
Sweet.
Looks fun. I mean,
Yeah.
just briefly in a similar vein, Nintendo exclusive, I actually also played Bayonetta Origins.
Ooh.
Cereza and Lost
wanna
Demon.
Now this I want to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
It's really nice actually. I really enjoyed it. It was not at all what I was expecting it to be what it is. Okay. I would never have expected them to make this type of game, right? To make a Bayonetta game that's essentially like a storybook adventure through an enchanted forest that's kind of like an exploratory puzzle game with some weird combat in there. You actually control two characters at once. You control Cereza with the left stick and Cheshire, the cat, with the right stick. And so during combat, you are literally steering these two characters at the same time, trying to use their abilities. And I'm going to tell you, it's fucking hard, right? Like, not hard as in they've made combat hard, but hard as in trying to control two characters at the same
It's like
time.
left brain,
And
right brain kind of stuff.
Totally. And my
Yeah.
brain actually couldn't do it. And as in, like, I would kind of just like steer one character for a second and then steer the other character.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know what I mean? And like, it's fine because the game is very easy. You can get through it no matter like how bad you are at that. But I was definitely like, nah, man, my brain can't handle this. This is not working. But even despite that, combat is still quite fun because it just has really nice animations, and Cheshire has a number of really interesting, fun forms that he can transform into that have different abilities. There's some Metroidvania woven in there as well, and it's just nice. It's a nice time. But the surprise is it doesn't feel like anything remotely close to the original Bayonetta games. It is a huge leap, and it also feels a little bit, I want to say, vanilla. Right? Whereas Bayonetta is
camp? Yeah, Bayonetta is
No,
very camp.
not
She's
at
very
all.
out there.
Exactly. And it's like, I would have loved to have seen some of that. There's like little flashes of it, but not a lot. And I would have loved to have seen a closer adherence to that kind of vibe. Like, how do you make this little storybook thing still feel like a Bayonetta game? And it doesn't feel like a Bayonetta game. It's a very competent, well-made game on its own, but it doesn't feel like it's connected to the Bayonetta franchise, you know?
Interesting.
So I do recommend it. Sorry, go on.
I was going to ask, is it kind of like Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons in that way of like it in terms of like one controller, like you described the controlling both of them in the sticks, like
Yes.
because I get the vibe that, and maybe this is wrong because this is a Platinum produced game,
Yes,
right?
It is.
Because
is, yeah.
it feels like Platinum went to an indie studio, even though Platinum is an indie studio, and was like, here is our IP, take care of it, here are the rules, and continue. That's kind of the vibe that I got from the trailer.
Well, I mean, I understand that it was developed by Platinum in-house. I don't think they outsourced it to someone else. And so it's kind of like, I'm going to guess that just a smaller team worked on it. Perhaps it was young talent they were trying to cultivate, and they went in a totally different direction than anything one could have expected. Disappointingly, it's not co-op. And you say, is it Tale of Two Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons? No, in the sense that it's a single-player game only. And that's a shame because the control scheme totally lends itself to, here, you take this Joy-Con, I take this one, and off we go. So weird that they chose not to do that. It feels like a real miss, to be honest. I think this game would have been a better product overall had you the opportunity to do that. But yeah, it is also Brothers doesn't have any combat, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
it's just that kind of narrative puzzle exploration stuff. So yeah, this definitely has a very chunky combat component. There are dungeons that you will discover and that you'll have to beat, like little, arena style challenges where it's like Bayonetta. The walls come up, bunch of enemies spawn, kick the shit out of them, move on. It's like that within those dungeons as well, except you don't get a score or anything. The combat is very much just like spamming one button with a few moves, but not many. And it's really just about mastering that control scheme of controlling two characters at once. So, look, it's a good game, as I said. It's just not a Bayonetta game. And if you're looking for a nice puzzle adventure game, I really recommend it, quite strongly, in fact. But if you are looking for a Bayonetta game, I'm pretty sure you'll be disappointed by this because it's not it. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Lucy, you've been playing something called Dredge. This is a boat game.
So Ralph,
I thought it was going to be like a murder game, but it seems like it's about boats.
Ralph recommended this to me, and I thank him eternally. So this is not a review of it because embargo's not up and I haven't finished it, but there is a demo that you can play now so you can get a taste of it. And I basically just want to champion this game because it ticks so many of my boxes. I think, Ralph, when you sent me the thing on Discord, you went, this is a very Lucy-ass game. And I was like,
exactly. It has Lucy vibes, this game, for sure.
So it is a fishing game at the core of it, but also meets Lovecraft, meets sort of at least the characters, the painterly art style of Disco Elysium. But the vibes are very dour and mysterious. And also there is the kind of inventory management of Resident Evil in there too, which I really didn't expect.
All right.
So basically, you're a fisherman.
Jake.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pandering. I'm pandering to all of you. Basically, you're a fisherman. You get sent to this kind of selection of islands, and the fisherman who was there before you disappeared under mysterious circumstances on the ocean. And you are told explicitly, you go there, you wash ashore, you're given a boat, and you have to catch fish to pay back the mayor who gave you this boat. And he explicitly tells you, don't go out on the water at night because of the fog. The fog. And inside the fog are these kind of monsters.
Hell yeah.
And it's very weird because every time you catch fish and you give them you sell the fish. My cat is going insane.
Oh my God.
Peanut, Jesus Christ.
Peanut.
Screaming.
I've been away for like 3 nights, so this is why. When you take the fish back and you sell them, you have these sort of strange conversations where the fishmonger will go, sometimes they'll ask for an aberration, a really messed up fish that you managed to catch. And they'll just say, okay, I'm gonna take it in and I'm gonna lock the door and don't come back until the morning, that kind of thing. And you also have a madness meter if you go out at night. And basically you're just there to find out what the hell's gone on. You're a fisherman, but so there's kind of inventory management because obviously you can only catch a certain amount of fish and take them back to sell them, but you can keep improving your ship, so your boat, so you can improve the hull. You can get better engines, better lights, better fishing rods, and that means you can catch more fish. And so there are all these little incremental things that you can change and work towards. But the heart of it is a really interesting and compelling mystery. and fishing minigames. And it's really good.
It's a good sell.
Really
I'm looking at the trailer right now, which is probably whoever made the trailer for Dredge, masterclass in learning how to tease a game without ruining the surprise. Like everything you just said, I picked up on the trailer alone. It looks very exciting. As someone who hates fishing in games, what makes it kind of stand out versus like a mechanic in like Final Fantasy 15, if you will?
Gotcha. So it's more that everything is very attainable. You have an encyclopedia, and it really goes out of its way to, because Stardew Valley, the worst part of that game for me is the fishing, because the mini games is just kind of weirdly difficult. I never really got to grips with it. This one is like all of the mini games are very easy. There is a mode you can set, so you don't even have to actually do them. If you kind of tap the button at the right time, it just makes the fishing go quicker, but you can just leave it and it'll just go and you'll catch the fish. And it's not a skill check or anything. It's just this kind of nice meditative part of it, because time moves forward only when you're moving or when you're fishing or dredging. And there's a really cool thing that they've put in. So you get a spyglass at the very beginning and you can just take a look and you can see exactly which fish are there. So there's also no element of time wasting. It's very, for a fishing game where it sets you in the middle of an ocean and sends you to various kind of selections of islands to find different fish. It's very smart about not wasting your time and kind of giving you all the tools. So there's, you get this, you can boost your engines a little bit, and there's management there too, because you can't boost them too long, otherwise you break your engine. So it's kind of, it gives you all these little shortcuts, I guess, in a way, but also there's so much in there. There are all these like messages in a bottle that kind of speak to a wider thing that's gone on. There's treasures to find and sell. There's little NPCs at the various islands who you have to help. It's very good, man. It's very good.
Yeah, I played the demo this was one of the big darlings of not the most recent Steam Next Fest, I don't think. Maybe the one before. I forget. I think I missed a Steam Next Fest. Played the demo, really loved this, and yeah, got in touch with the publisher. They sent me a few codes, and so yeah, I sent a few out to different people, and everyone I'm speaking to is just really loving it. Yeah, I just think it's got all the makings of a really like an indie hit, you know what I mean? And I'm very keen to get into the full version.
Steam Deck,
which I'm planning on doing next week.
I'm playing on Steam Deck.
I'm in.
I was playing on my TV because I got a stand. And I was like, I really want to watch Succession and play this. And then I went, wait a minute, I can, because I can just put it in my hand. But no, I played it on my flight today.
I'm so excited for Succession season. Oh my god, I'm so excited. That's all I care about right now. It's like how many sleeps until Succession is back.
I know. I'm doing my rewatch.
Oh, nice.
I forgot how unhinged that first episode is.
Can't remember it. I haven't.
That's the only episode I've seen, and I was like, "Whoa, this is a good show,
bro! It is the best of all the shows.
Yeah, it looks great. I want to watch it.
It's the best of all the shows.
Let's Dredge.
Yeah.
Speaking of Succession, I guess.
Yep. Can't wait for this segue. Let's go.
I was trying to think of something good. Oh man, you saw my brain fart in real time.
Don't stop. You got this.
We got a couple more games I want to hear from. Gerard, Theatrhythm, Final Fantasy, Final Bar Line. Did I say that right?
I think it's called. I think I even written the name. I think it's Theatrhythm Final Bar Line. Just
it is
encompassing Final Fantasy.
Yep.
This is the best of the Theatrhythm games, hands down. It's the most mechanically clean. I think this is the third or fourth one in the franchise so far. And if you like Final Fantasy and you love Final Fantasy music and you love Final Fantasy adjacent music, such as Advent Children, Crisis Core, is it Live Alive? Romancing
Live Alive,
Romancing Saga Frontier, that kind of stuff. It's essentially, Final Fantasy Tactics. Like, it's not just a celebration of the Final Fantasy franchise, but really a lot of the RPG franchises that Square Enix owns. And they're infusing it into this game. This is a game that I'm not trying to complete for any content. This is what I call a for me game, where When I
Love
want to get
those.
away from work, I just sit down and play it. And I started playing it on Sunday, and it's been like 3 days now, and I can't put it down. It's just really, really fun. And this is my first Theatrhythm game. I've played the other ones casually, but this is the first one that I've been like, okay, I'm gonna do it. There's a whole robust RPG system that I didn't know existed before. That's really cool. You play through essentially the plot of each game, and through music. So it's,
That's cool.
yeah. So, if you're playing Final Fantasy VI, for instance, you play the opening of Narsh with Terra's theme, and, they have these little cool art style stuff. And then the next thing is Locke's theme, because that's when Locke and Terra meet. And I'm a huge Final Fantasy nerd, as you can tell. So, yeah. So there's if you like Crisis Core, there's a lot of, they tell a story of Crisis Core. They do without spoiling it. So if you haven't played it, you're not sitting there going like, there's no cutscenes. There's not a lot of narrative elements. It's just, you have your 4 party members running around, either in a moving stage or in a battle sequence. And you're playing your favorite tracks from all over Final Fantasy and Square Enix history. And there's just this insanely robust element of paying attention to what your characters are equipped with, whether it's like Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, and his finishing move, or Firaga and Thundaga, and so on and so forth. And there's challenges planted in the middle of the story mode. So it'll be like, hey, you can play through the plot, unlock all the playable characters, and get to the end, or you can beat this challenge caveat, the secondary objective. And for the most part, they're pretty easy, but they get really tough. And it's fascinating how faithful they've been to all of the games, because obviously this is their third or fourth take at the Theatrhythm aspect of it. But there's a ton of content. I think I probably put in about 25 hours into it so far in the last couple days, and I can't put it down. It's really fun. If you don't like Final Fantasy music or Square Enix music in general, might not be the game for you. But Nobuo Uematsu is like the best of all time. So
Is the 14 music in there?
yes, all of it. Like almost others.
There's so much 14 music, by the way.
No joke.
So
You
much.
play through all of the expansions.
The expansions.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's-
really?
If Final Fantasy
I'm actually
4
really interested. I didn't know that that's what it was. I knew it was a rhythm game. I knew it had Final Fantasy songs, but I didn't know it had this kind of sequential
Yeah, I like
play
that.
through the game. That's a really nice touch. I
Yeah,
like that a lot.
and it's to the point where it like you start playing remixes from other games with the track. So it's like, oh, Distidia's in here, and the remixes they did for Distidia are in here,
right.
and they call it the Final Fantasy 13 series because 13.2 and 13.3 are in there, and Chocobo Mystery Dungeon and Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. Like,
Wow.
they really feels like they're pulling from the bottom of the barrel, and more importantly, like the game's been out for a couple weeks now, and like today they just dropped a bunch of new DLC if you bought the season pass with new characters and more music. So they're actively updating this bad boy, and it's only been a couple of weeks, and it's the most well reviewed out of the franchise so far. It runs great on pretty much everything, whether you have it on Switch, Steam Deck, or PlayStation 5 or 4 rather. Yeah, I can't get enough of it. It's super fun. And there's a bunch of cool little mini modes too. You can play with friends. You can like share a controller with a homie, and you can go, hey, I'll take these 2 notes, and you take these 2 notes. The last thing I'll say about it, one of the things I love about this versus something like a Dance Dance Revolution or a Guitar Hero is that your button placement really matters in those games. Like, you have to make sure that if your finger is on the green and on the red and the orange and the yellow and the blue. In this game, any button counts. You just have to hit a button.
Okay.
And there are moments where you'll see a prompt come up that kind of puts you on your toes, right? Like, you'll see if it's a moving stage, it'll be like a line that you have to use the analog stick. So you press the button, and then you have to listen to the rhythm of the music and kind of go this way. Or you'll see like a orange arrow, and that'll point into the direction. So okay, I need to use the analog stick to flick the control stick in that direction.
It's a little different than your average.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that when you're playing on Supreme mode, when you're hitting hundreds of notes in a song. It's like fascinating to look at. If you want to see cool stuff, look up Supreme Mode playthroughs of songs on this game, and you'll just sit there and ask yourself, what did I just watch? It's it'll blow your mind. But yeah, highly recommend if you like Final Fantasy and Square Enix music.
Yeah, way to put that on my radar.
Very cool.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, totally.
Ralph, you got one more for us? You've been playing a lot.
I've been playing a lot. Yeah, I mean, I briefly I played this Finals, and it's like from a whole bunch of former DICE developers who went and formed their own studio, Embark. It's really good. Like, if you like old school Battlefield and you love being able to blow up buildings in a competitive envinement,
I love Levolution.
Yeah, well, no, Levolution is hard baked. Levolution is like a script. This is like literally this is like Red Faction, but a multiplayer shooter, right? Well, obviously it had that as well. But anyway,
and the debris sticks around. Like, you got to like deal with the debris after.
You have to
like,
deal with it. Yeah, it's
cool.
really good. It's in closed beta right now, and they'll do future beta rounds in the future. But very much recommend putting that on your radars. It's just a really good time. Super well made. I played Dead Island 2. Did anyone else play that preview? Was it just me?
No, I think
I watched your video. Good video.
Okay,
I
yeah,
watched
cool.
your video.
It's
Dead Island.
It's fine. Sorry again.
Is Dead Island?
Well, I actually haven't played Dead Island 1, so I don't really know how to respond to that question. But but I would say that it's fine in the sense that, like, it's just a very basic ass zombie game. And I've definitely seen other preview coverage land where I expected it to, which is some people are like, this is outdated, this isn't bringing anything new to the table, this is like old, whatever. And I'm like, yes, I actually agree with all of that. And that was very much what I thought as I started playing it early on. But the more time I spent with it, I'm like, I don't necessarily know that that's a bad thing, because it's just a very straight up, as Jake would say, video game ass video game. It's just uncomplicated, and it's not trying to be a live service. It's not trying to have this big ambitious storyline that's fucking ends up fucking sucking, even though it's wasted 30 hours of your life. The open world is not too big and bloated and full of bullshit. It's just like, let's just make a simple ass fun zombie game, and that's what they've done. And so I ended up enjoying my 5 hours with it, and I'm actually looking forward to spending more time with it. But I absolutely anticipate that it's going to get a 75 on Metacritic. Mm-hmm. Some people are going to be like, this is shit and boring. Some people are going to be like, this is not worth the asking price. I'll buy it at sale. I think all of those things are correct in their own way. But I think if anyone's looking for just a chill ass, very relaxed, straight up zombie game that you want to play with your friends or alone, I think this is going to do the job. You know what I mean? Like, it does what it sets out to do. So,
does what it says on the tin.
Exactly. You know, and I think it's like rare for a lot of games these days, but yeah, it does that.
It sounds kind of nice to have at least none of the games as a service stuff tacked on.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
At least to just be a game that.
Or open world. Yeah. Like, it's just like level based. Like, you click on levels and just kill things. I'm in.
And like, and even the grinding for material, like trying to collect materials to craft, very easy to do. Weapons, they're not particularly complicated. Enemies, they're not annoying to fight against. Like, you just realize in so many games that there's like a few things that really piss you off, and you're like, oh, that part of it's really annoying. Dead Island doesn't really have any of those things. It's characterized by its lack of ambition, but as a result of that, it's just able to nail its fundamentals very well, and is just very enjoyable as a result of it, so long as you're down for that, you know? So, yeah, played through that. And then the other thing I played through was Atlas Fallen, which I will have a preview up on the channel by the time this video goes live. I know a lot of people have question marks about that. No one really knows what it is at this point. They're like, is this the Surge but in the desert? Or is this friggin' Forspoken? It's not a Souls-like, first of all. I will clarify that. It is much more like Darksiders. Darksiders 2, I guess, with its open world structure. It is good. I like it. I did like it. I am wanting to play more of it, but there's definitely some challenges with it. On the PC, it definitely ran like shit. But it's a preview build, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. Wouldn't be the first preview build that I played that ran poorly, that ended up running well at launch, so we'll just have to wait and see. I would say the combat is quite floaty, and I think people who want really deliberate, precise combat, like Surge, for example, which is the game they made before this, that's not here. It's much more about the spectacle. It's got a really cool combat system where you have this momentum bar, and the more damage you deal, you fill up that momentum bar, and it actually upgrades your weapon and attacks as you go. So your little axe thing becomes a much bigger axe thing after you hit the second momentum bar, and then at the third level of momentum, your axe thing is like fucking huge, and you just swing in massive cyclones and whatever. Plus,
cool.
your abilities become it's actually quite a clever combat system in terms of how it scales up. But yeah, it is still, as I said, it's about the spectacle. It's not quite precise. Some of the encounters can feel a bit spammy, a bit button spammy, as opposed to more deliberate. And so look, I feel like this one has a bit of an uphill battle ahead of it, because I feel like it's going to get compared to Forspoken, for example, which had a very similar vibe.
Oh no.
This is not vibe in terms of tonally. It's quite a different tonal vibe.
Oh, in
What I'm
terms of
saying
like
is,
reaction.
in
to
terms
it?
of it's in the desert. It's very open worldy. Like you go meet an NPC and he's like, go and kill me some birds or whatever, and you go and kill the birds, and you find a statue, and you need to find another statue that connects to it, and you connect 7 statues together in the time limit, and that's how you unlock the reward. And you find chests lying around. It's got a very open worldy trope structure, as well as a combat system that's not particularly precise. The Surge is a very hardcore Souls-like game. It's Surge 1 in particular, punishingly difficult, right? This is so different to that. This is way more accessible. It is an open world action game. It is not a Souls-like. It's for everyone. It's not for a select audience. And I think some people will be disappointed with that. Personally, I think I'm a little bit disappointed with it, because I really love The Surge, and I would love The Surge 3. But I'm interested enough with what they've got here to want to see more. I would say that. I definitely enjoyed myself. I'm keen to see more, but there's definitely some question marks that I'm holding in my mind as I, look towards a review. So yeah, that's out in like May as well, by the way.
I was about to ask. I feel like I haven't
soon.
even heard much about it.
Yeah, no, they've really they haven't done a great job marketing it, sadly.
When you said the name, I was like about to say, wow, did they release a Gerard Butler disaster movie as a game? Like, that was my
Atlas
first
has
instinct.
fallen.
Yes,
Atlas has fallen.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like had to take I looked at the trailer as you were talking about. I was like, okay, good. I thought for a second it was like a video game adaptation of a Gerard Butler movie.
It's so funny.
I mean, didn't he just release a movie called Plane?
Yeah, that's right.
Look, we've come
Oh my
along.
God.
We've come a long way since 300. We really have.
And what was that one? P.S. I love you.
Yeah.
I cry every time.
I
That was
cry
good.
every
Every
time.
single cry.
There was
every time.
Oh, what was
Every
the one where he was a gamer?
Gamer.
It was called
Gamer.
Stop being in movies that are just called The Thing. Okay,
Words.
Just-
My favorite was Law-Abiding Citizen, because there was a point in that movie where he's in a courtroom or something and he goes, Your Honor, I am a law-abiding citizen.
Him trying to do an American accent is always so funny, because you can hear him trying his best to fight a dialect that's otherwise disagreeing with him.
My first like exposure to him was as the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, which
I
was
didn't
so
even know that he was the Phantom
Yeah.
of the Opera.
He's Phantom in Phantom of the Opera, which is
Wow.
like he's weirdly good in it, and I was just like, oh yeah, okay,
believe it.
this guy's the Phantom, and then he's in shit like Gamer.
My first.
Tell you who else is in Phantom is Patrick Wilson plays Raoul. Whoa, my god, amazing!
He's so great.
I
Wow.
love him so much.
My first exposure to Billy Zane was through The Phantom, the famous costumed purple costume superhero, as nobody remembers. You guys don't remember that? Okay, never
Of
mind.
course,
No?
Billy's. No, I totally remember Billy Zane's Phantom. Don't worry.
Oh, I love you.
I-
This is
I-
why
I
we're
thought we were
friends.
talking about
Yes.
Titanic. That's like, that's
No,
Billy Zane 101.
Yeah, no. He was a good guy before he was a bad guy, but he crushes the bad guy role. I actually rewatched Titanic when I was on the plane to Japan. I'm like, God damn, this movie holds up. Everyone's performances is fucking rocking, but Billy Zane really crushes it, man. Every scene
Yes.
he's in, he
He's
just
so good.
he crushes it.
Yeah, we watched it a couple weeks ago as well.
I did one. When you guys were interviewing, God of War creators, I was sick in bed watching Titanic, literally, and it's
That's
so great.
funny. Yeah, it is.
Jim
It is.
Cameron, man, you don't miss.
Jimmy Cameron, never bet against
Jimmy
him.
Cameron.
Still haven't seen Avatar 2, by the way.
No,
Still
me
haven't
Me
seen it.
neither, but I heard it's pretty solid.
It's fine.
How about that? 3 of us.
The end of it is
Me neither.
really
one
cool.
person. It's fine.
The end of it goes insano mode, and it's like I'm like, what? I can't believe this is happening on screen. The rest of it's just like exposition, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, the fish are magic, and we live on the
Unobtainium.
beach. Like it's like, okay, cool, man. And then in the end, they're like, let's make it almost R-rated, and let's just let the blue people do like
Shag.
quick time, like do CQC. It's so good.
Shag! Is that what you said, Lucy?
Yeah.
Let's let the blue people shag.
just
Nice. Very nice.
Well, from that, let's try and do another Q&A. So this is from Graham, who asks, Ralph mentioned in his Dead Space review that, and I quote, if you are not a survival horror fan, I still recommend checking this out. What would be some other games that you recommend that do a good job of introducing people to a certain genre? I can go first. The NetherRealm fighting games for fighting games. Injustice and Injustice 2 are incredible games if you're a player like me, where you kind of just like single player experiences, you love adventures, you cry when comic book characters show up and talk to other comic book characters. Injustice has a really good campaign that is really fun to play through and really entertaining, paced well, that introduces you to playing as fighting game characters. And by the end, you're like, that was a great story. And also, like, I think I like a fighting game. And then they do it again with the modern Mortal Kombat campaigns. And I really like them for that. That's my pick.
That's a really good question.
It's a hard one.
I would say personally, I would say for JRPGs, that terminology, which we have all spoken
Here we
about
go.
lately.
Yeah,
but
thanks, Ralph. Thanks for asking that question, Ralph.
No one. But I still believe that term is. I don't believe Yoshi P was saying don't use the term JRPG. I think he was saying it had negative connotations in the past that have changed since then.
Yeah.
And he even said this will depend on who you ask. Like he wasn't saying it was a universal truth. you know?
Sure.
So if you're at all interested in JRPGs, I would personally say Final Fantasy X, similar to the conversation we had a few weeks back, where I think it's a really interesting intersection of the older style gameplay and the underpinnings of the series meets a more modern and accessible finishing, with regards to its voice acting, its visual presentation. It's got a really, really banging storyline, main characters, and just
kick-ass
some
music.
of the music is amazing. Some of the spectacle is outstanding. And even if you go back and watch the clips on YouTube today, they still hold up and still look awesome.
Yes.
I think there's lots of older JRPGs you could play, obviously, that really kind of like show you the roots of the genre style. But I think in terms of accessibility, like really getting into that style of game, I think Final Fantasy X makes it quite easy to do that. So yeah.
Ralph somewhat stole my answer. I was going to say, if you are, this is specifically for you, gamer with a capital G, TM out there, that have not played Final Fantasy VII. You've heard everyone say, I should play Final Fantasy VII, and you haven't taken the plunge. You're nervous about it because Remake is out, and there's Crisis Core, and Advent, blah, 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 blah. If you're trying to get your feet wet and you're nervous that you're not going to like it, play Final Fantasy VI first. It's a much more digestible story. It's basically a little bit of a cleaner take on, the Empire taking over the world with magical kind of stuff spread throughout it. And it makes you care about the characters as a collective, which is something that comes as a core part of the story of Final Fantasy VII. And I highly recommend it. The pixel remasters are pretty dang good. And I think they're only playable on Steam right now, but supposedly they're coming to Switch and PlayStation in the future, based off of the leak at the end of last year when it was on the Square Enix store for like 2 minutes. But yeah, that's me.
That's a good answer.
Shit, I don't know. Like what genre? Like
It's
RPG?
hard on the spot.
It is hard.
It is
I'm
hard
trying
on
to
the
think
spot.
like I don't
Yep,
know.
it's tough.
Peggle, if you want to just be introduced to the greatest genre of all time. Pachinko. It's like
And
the
like
Price is
Stardew
Right shit.
Valley for, general life sim games.
No, if you want proper life sim, you want The Sims 2.
Oh, here we go.
No, like a proper life simulation game, Sims 2 will never be beaten. Sims 4 is trying uphill battle, but you'll never get better than The Sims 2. I'm trying to think of just like an RPG in general, like a quote unquote like a Fallout or a.
Sure.
I genuinely think Skyrim.
Yeah, true.
Honestly, like if you are
That's true.
looking
That's a good
for
one.
an RPG to get into, because I think the way that Skyrim levels by doing is so clever, and it really encourages you to just experiment with everything, and there is so much to experiment with in that game.
Mm-mm-mm.
And I think if you
Yeah, I
are setting forth on your own adventure and you want to really find your way and you want a game that will really allow you to do that, I think Skyrim. That's a really good question, but damn, it's hard on the spot with 4 hours of sleep.
Definitely.
It's my excuse and I'm sticking to it.
It's a good answer. No, you nailed it.
Yeah, it's definitely great question. Thank you, Graham, for sending that one. You almost stumped Lucy there.
I know.
Now, I think before we wrap up, we got to cover this week in the Wayback. Gerard?
Ooh, boy. All right, everyone. This was a pretty crazy of a time. This week in gaming, if you will. I'll go first. There's so many titles to pick from. I'm picking an obscure one though, because you guys know me. I love to get weird. Bushido Blade for the PlayStation 1 came out March 14th, 1997. Does anyone in this chat know what Bushido Blade is?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, sure.
I've heard of it. Never played it.
Okay, Lucy. Imagine a fighting game where you have no health bar.
Perfect.
There is two characters, and when you go to attack each other, it's realistic in the essence of if you have a sword and you attack their left arm gets disabled, and you now. So one of the crazy memes about Bushido Blade 2 is that there is a character that flat out has a gun and can just shoot
everyone.
the enemy.
It's like Ishin.
Yeah.
Square Enix fighting game. It came up in that time and then never again. I would love to see it come back. Highly recommended if you can get your hands on it. It's very fun. Very easy. Just pick it up and button go boom.
Button go boom. I'm sold.
24 years ago today, EverQuest came out.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, I know, right? 24 years.
Is EverQuest
Quarter
still
of a
going?
century almost.
Probably.
No, I don't know, to be honest. It's so interesting. I never played EverQuest. I started with WoW, and but obviously EverQuest was kind of the progenitor. I'm sure there were other games before EverQuest. Just as everyone says, "Oh, WoW was the first MMO," is the troll, and then obviously highlighting the fact that EverQuest was the first MMO, and there was probably an MMO before EverQuest that we don't really even know or talk about or remember. But I think it was obviously a fascinating time. I would have loved to have been a part of that. I definitely spoke to people when I played WoW who had come from EverQuest, and hearing the stories of that game and how fucking grueling it was. And like we talk about the way we complain about spawn timers and what the amount of work that you have to do to kill certain bosses and whatever. The stories that I heard about what it was like to actually play EverQuest, it sounded like the most horrendously awful experience I could possibly envisage. It sounded like torture, but people loved it, and that's how we got our MMOs today.
EverQuest was, I just double checked on this, but Jeff Kaplan was a guild leader in EverQuest, like
No way.
pretty prestigious guild that got like a lot of world firsts. And that's how he ended up getting his job at Blizzard, because there was like someone else who worked at Blizzard in that guild recommended him to go work there.
You
then
heard
he
it
worked
here,
on
kids.
WoW. Then
Just
he worked
keep
on
gaming.
Overwatch.
The former game director for Destiny 2, Luke Smith, used to be a guild leader for a big World of Warcraft guild, and he got some serious shit done in that game as well. Like, world first or server first for this Scarab Lord, which is like a really big deal back in WoW. So, yeah, man, hardcore gamers make hardcore games. You'd have thunk it. There you go. They graduate. Yeah. Even Joe today was talking about the fact that he was like a, hardcore raider from back in his day before he came over to Bungie and started in game dev. So, yeah, man. Yeah.
I'll go next. About 17 years ago, in 2006, The Elder Scrolls Oblivion.
Ooh.
I love this game. This was a game that I was always like a hype monger, you know, just like getting obsessed over a game and thinking about it endlessly until it released, poring over screenshots, saving the magazines, cutting out the pictures and everything. Like I was crazy. And Oblivion was really the first game I remember having access to decent internet and being able to be excited about a game. And Bethesda, close to release, was doing a thing where they were releasing little quick stinger trailers like every day. Like they literally release a 30-second clip of just a pan of the skyline. And then the next day they'd release another 20-second tease of just first-person view running through the woods. And it was so exciting because the game just looked like out of this world, like beautiful and vast and incredible. And I was like already on the high of Morrowind. And this just seemed like the next big thing. It was like I had gotten a 360 and really wanted something that made it feel like it was like, holy shit, the next generation is here. And like that was it for me, because that launch lineup wasn't that great. Oblivion for me was really the first big one I went hard on. And it had a cool collector's edition. You got a coin with Emperor Uriel Septim on it. And like I just thought that was cool. And it's a really good game. I actually still think it holds up. It's a little weird and wacky now, but the music, the look of some of the towns, the tone, the feel of it is so painterly and beautiful.
Yeah.
That I just...
That's actually, funny enough, one of the reasons I bounced off Oblivion. I didn't like Oblivion because I came off Morrowind and I played the ever-living shit out of Morrowind.
It's a big shift because Morrowind's
yeah.
weird and cool.
It's so weird and like just the best. And then Oblivion, I'm like, oh, this is a bit boring, isn't it? It just looks like a fucking fairy tale land.
Yeah.
It's like it's just looks like where the kingdom that Shrek lives in, you know?
But then you get to go in the Oblivion gates and like fight the devil and like kick him in the face.
I didn't get that far because I was just like, nah, this isn't for me, man. So that was actually one of my biggest disappointments, funnily enough, was Oblivion.
Have you been following Skyblivion?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Jake, editor Jake, hi Jake, made a really great video about the team who were building Skyblivion a couple of years ago, and it's very worth a watch if you haven't seen it already, because that's such a cool project, but like must be an absolute nightmare to navigate.
Yeah, most recently they just put out like a new trailer and a new look, and it was like a launch window announcement trailer, and I think it's like it's like 2025.
Yeah,
they literally announced like it looks amazing. The trailer was incredible, and then it ended with 2025, and they were like, it's hard to make a game where a small team, we're not gonna like give you something earlier and then you get mad at us. So love to see it.
True.
Makes sense.
My game. So in Japan, 12th of March, 2015, Yakuza 0.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Japan.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
So what was that? 8 years ago, I played Yakuza 0 in 2020 over lockdown. That was my summer game. I spent 60 hours in there, 40 of which probably in the cabaret club. Fell in love with Kiryu and Majima. I genuinely think Majima's intro in Yakuza 0 is one of the best character intros of all time. It's like a 15-minute long cutscene.
Don't spoil it for me. I haven't played it.
I'm not going to spoil it. I am excited for you for when you eventually get to experience it, because my jaw was on the floor the whole time. I mean, you can say this of all Yakuza games, but like it balances just being so sincere, earnest, with the craziest sub-stories and experiences you'll ever have in a game. Like buying porn for a child and then trying to sneak it past a couple of ladies so that they don't get mad at you. I think that's in 0. There's a bunch of stuff in
you kill a man with an ashtray within like the first 30 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Oh god. And just the way that it introduces every character with like the dun dun kind of thing, and
I love that. That's very cool. Yeah.
I fell in love with that game, and I'm still in love with Yakuza now. And it's 8 years ago, but then obviously it came out again in the West a little bit later, but that's mine.
That's the game that got me into the series. So shout out to them. Shout out to all these old games. I mean, they're not that old, but we're old. We got to go to bed. So this has been another episode of the Friends Per Second podcast, folks. Thank you for being here. Clicking thumbs up or rating us on your favorite podcast platform helps. We're here every other week. We're going to be talking more Resident Evil next week and a bunch of other games that we've been playing behind the scenes that we can't talk about in this one. So be sure to come back around. I'm Jake Baldino. You can find me on Game Ranks during the day, my own channel at night. Lucy, where can people find you?
I'm Gamespot and Giant Bomb during the day, and looking at the YouTube comments on Neil Young's Harvest Moon at night. If you want to cry, like I tweeted this out, genuinely, most earnest comment section I've ever seen in my life. You can find me there.
Sweet.
All right, Ralph.
Yes. You'll find me here on this very YouTube channel, or if you're on the podcast, then you'll find me at SkillUp on YouTube and on Twitter. SkillUp. That's me.
Last but not least, Gerard.
You'll find me buying every single Wii U and 3DS game over at youtube.com/thatonevideogamer, or just search The Completionist on all your favorite platforms. You'll find my dumb, fat, bearded face there.
He sounds tired and broke, so go watch his video.
Very much so. Thank you, Jake.
Folks, thank you very much for watching, listening. See you next time. Tie your shoes and go to bed.